everybody who's listening to Bryant Me right now, tonight's episode is going to be a little bit different. One, because there is no Bryant. So it's and me running the show tonight. I'm without my safety blanket, Mr. Bryant Caves. With tonight's show, we do have somebody filling in. You know him. I'm not going to say you know and love him. You know him. You might love him. You might not. He's our pal, Robbie Rogers. And before I bring you in, Robbie, this is the pre-intro of our show. We have actually a format. Believe it or not, we do have like an outline of what we do in our show. And this is the segment called the pre-intro, where we just wax poetic. We just talk about whatever is going on in life. Nothing soccer-y, nothing podcasty thingsy. So tonight we're just going to get going talking with Robbie. Robbie, welcome to the show tonight. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to do a big introduction. You've been on the show like 4 times.
Thanks for having me. This is my first time. I'll be talking solely women's basketball though, so you get that.
Yeah, that's a disclaimer. We will talk about some soccer. We have all your questions in our Ask Bam segment, copyright, all rights reserved. But we don't have like a huge NWSL segment tonight. We are both going to share experiences, my very boring experience and Robbie's experience with NCAA women's college basketball, or as they call it, college basketball. But before we hop into that, Robbie, our pre-intro, we just talk about whatever. What when you were driving, it was in Tennessee, right? Knoxville is where the SEC tournament was.
It was in Nashville where that tournament was.
Nashville. Okay. So driving there, what was your favorite episode of Bryant and Me that you listened to?
Ooh, that's really tough. It's really tough. I really like that Kansas City preview was really good. I quite enjoyed that because I never heard from that person before. So it was like a new, fresh experience.
Oh, new experience. Okay, because Justin Hordiker, great guy, part of the Soccer Talk Lads STL. He writes for Equalizer, covers KC Current. I can't say Kansas City NWSL anymore. That was a good one. But we were talking to the Gotham peeps, the Soccer Over Gotham, and apparently you had reached out to them a while ago and said you need to do a show with Bryant and me. Is that true, or are they fibbers?
This is very true. I was like, y'all got to go on that show. It's a great time, so I gave you a 2 thumbs up review. So
wow, Robbie, that was really nice of you. I thought you were going to say that was your favorite episode. Was it the nutmeg thing? Is that what bothered you about the episode?
Like, it doesn't bother me anymore. And because I like to laugh at myself. So, just the fact that Gary challenged her and didn't tell me and was like, go nutmeg Robbie. Like that was just, I thought it was hilarious. Like I like to poke fun at myself, as you know. So
that's what our whole show is. Yeah, somebody it was Gianna today had said, oh, it's okay to do some self-promotion. Like, no, we are a podcast of self-demotion. We are not a self-promotion podcast. Well, that's good. I'm glad you were able to enjoy it. If you folks haven't listened, go listen to them. Our last 3 weeks were all NWSL previews. So if you're here after listening to one of those, get ready for a night that has nothing at all to do with any of those 3 episodes. Robbie, what are your expectations for being on the show tonight? What are you at the end of the night? What feelings are you hoping to feel? What emotions are you hoping to emote?
I'm gonna get everyone hyped up for March Madness. Like
hyped up. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta tune in. I can't miss that. Like, if you missed the March Madness tournament for women, like, don't call yourself a basketball fan. Just don't. Because you're missing the best basketball.
I like it. Robbie, I love it. Save some of that fire for later on. Let's go ahead and get the show started. I don't think I can hold Robbie back anymore. He's about to attack. Welcome everybody to Bryant Me. We're a podcast where we talk about soccer and other things, other podcasty things. And tonight, we're going to rely heavily on the podcasty things. We've got Robbie Rogers here playing the role of Bryant as much as he can. We're not replacing you, Bryant. This is just a mere substitution. Let's put it that way. You'll be in the next match. Don't worry. Tonight on our show, Robbie and I are going to talk about what you already heard a little bit about. college basketball. We both have had experiences with college basketball this year, mine stretching across the season. Robbie drove, you've been to a few LSU games. You've been driving down to Louisiana and stuff for games. And then you went to Nashville for the SEC tournament. So that's what's going to be the main focus for folks who are soccer fans, who are heavily towards the soccer. One, we're going to convert you into basketball fans and you're going to watch some March Madness. Two, there will be some soccer because we have our Ask Bam segment and people asked about soccer. So we're going to bring at least some of that up towards the end of the show. And we will finish our show with the hashtag Ask Bam segment where we fix your lives. Your lives are a mess and we're going to fix them by answering your questions. They really have nothing in common, those two sentiments that I said, but it's fun. And that's what this podcast is all about. So before we get into the basketball, we need to go through the rundown of all those other scores that we don't really get to talk too much about. We're at least going to share scores and some highlights from some of our games that we don't have full segments on right now. I'm going to cover Liverpool women. They just played the London City Lionesses. Although if a team plays a game and no one's there to stream it, did it happen? Liverpool women, if you look on Google, the match doesn't actually show up. So it doesn't show up that they played it, but they did. It was a 1-1 draw against the London City Lionesses. Great thing for Liverpool is they're still in first. They have not lost a game since the first match of the season. I think they're on like a 14 match run without losing a game. And I think like 12 or 13 of those are wins. So Liverpool is up 7 points with about 6 matches to go before a potential trophy promotion, which I'm not saying is going to happen because I'm not going to jinx that. But Liverpool is looking pretty good right now. They play the second place team this weekend, Bristol City, which is just great. Liverpool men's side, they beat the Fighting Brian Lanois, aka Norwich City, 2-1 a few days ago, a few weeks ago. Who knows? Time is relative. Oh, it was in the FA Cup. Yeah, it was like last weekend. Sure. And then yesterday, Liverpool played in the Champions League where they beat Inter on aggregate 2-1. They lost the match 0-1, but it doesn't matter because Europeans are silly and they play their games across 2 matches. In terms of Tottenham, I don't care. Bryant's not here, so we're not going to talk about it. I'm going to say one thing domestically, soccer-wise, in the MLS. The Crew played over the weekend. They had a 3-3 draw where they were up 3-1 in the 82nd minute and they lost 2 points, but it's okay. It's the early part of the season. No need to go crazy yet. Also, if you are listening to this before Saturday's match and you are a Crew supporter and you have tickets you can't use, you need to donate them. You can donate them to Chris, Community Refugee and Immigration Services here in Columbus. They do a great job every facet of the life of a new American, somebody moving to America from another country, another land. They do everything for these folks, and they're not just doing things for folks, but they're living with folks. They're living their lives with them and supporting them however they can. So if you have a ticket you can't use for Crew match on Saturday, just go ahead and donate it. Donate it to Jay Holland, JHOLLON at Chris-Ohio.org. They can take singles, doubles, group tickets, whatever tickets you want to give. And people ask, well, what about deadlines? It'd be great if you got them in by like Friday so they had time to work logistics. But even then, if you wake up Saturday morning feeling a little tickle in your throat, you can't go to the match, donate the tickets because somebody will use them and they'll have a great time. They play Toronto FC this weekend. I'll be there covering it with massive report. It'll be really awesome. Speaking of really awesome, Robbie, I went through all that stuff as quick as I could because tonight is about basketball. Before we get into your tournament experience, I need to ask you, because my story is a little, it's got chapters, some blank pages, but it's got chapters. When did you start really getting into college basketball?
So that is the first women's sport I ever got into. Like when I was growing up, do you remember the women's tournament when they used to do whip around? When they used to like you got one game regional?
Huh.
You know what I mean? Like, when they did that, when they'd be like, okay, you're not gonna get all the games because they didn't broadcast women's sports like they do now. You know what I mean? Where it's like get the whole tournament now, but like then it was like
You
you
can
want
watch
to get
any game now. ESPN Plus, I had like Akron versus, I think it was Bowling Green on tonight. Like any game, they have every game on now. Yeah.
but yeah, like I remember like me and my mom used to watch these like whip around and it would be like, oh, you don't know who you're gonna get. You hope that it's your team, but it might not be your team. It might be some other team in the region, you know. So
Like
we would always hope.
UConn's, Tennessee's, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
like
Bigger
you don't
names.
know
Yeah.
who it's gonna be. So my mom's an Aggie, so she always hoped like, oh, please be the A&M game. But then when it wasn't, she was like, well, we're still gonna watch this anyway because it's competitive, it's great. So basketball, like if you really want to roll back the clock, like get me on women's basketball because like me and my mom used to watch that growing up. Like when I was a little kid, it used to be like put me on the couch, my mom would yell at the TV, and I learned basketball and everything I know from my mom.
That's
So
great. That's awesome, man. And you're an LSU Tigers, go Tigers, Geaux is how you spell go there. How did you become a Louisiana State University Tigers fan? I don't even know, like, where are you born, Robbie? I don't know anything about your background except for soccer and Gotham FC.
I grew up in Euless, Texas, but I
Okay.
recently looking back and getting my degree, so I get to do all I'm going to tour colleges again, and I'm using my Navy tuition assistance, and I started looking at colleges like programs and different things, and LSU just, man, they just recruited hard. They're like, we want you to come to LSU. We will work with you through your military stuff. We'll pause your classes if you deploy. Like they were awesome, and they just like
Wow.
beyond. And then naturally, like once I get to school, like I'm gonna support every sport they have, you know. And then of course, women's basketball is first. I'm gonna be like, I got to support these fighting Tigers, you know. So it's just natural, you know. What I mean, like you know me, like I go 100% in anything I do. You know, I'll be
You?
like,
No.
yeah. I
That's
mean,
good.
you're talking about the person who lost a bet for the championship game for Louisville, and man, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna show you. Like, it's not just about like, because I was like, you know what? Like, cool, we could take the picture in the parking lot, but I was like, man, like, let me just go all out because I felt like you would do the same thing and be like, okay, I'm gonna pull for this team. Like, so I went all out for that championship game. I was like in the stands. I learned all the Chicago chants. I was like, I'm gonna back these guys because like I lost a bet and I want to show that I lost this bet. And I appreciate our friendship that much to be like, here's what I'm gonna do. So
And you took that bet like a champ. Like you took it right on the chin. You never seemed upset about it. You seemed like stoked. You're ready to party because that whole weekend was a party. I mean, Becky Morgan got everybody liquored up, and then the championship game was just a party. Now I have to bring that up real quick. I know we weren't going to talk about soccer, and I'm going to ask you more about college basketball. You need to pay Becky back. You need to pay her back.
I know. I felt like I feel like it was a whole circle of us just buying each other drinks because like she would buy me a drink and then I would buy I'd buy like Lay, the Lavender Legion
Yeah,
girl
yeah,
drink.
yeah.
But it was just a circle of like, okay, now I'm gonna buy you drinks. Now you're gonna buy me drinks. So I felt like everybody ended up getting the return on it. So I
Okay.
feel like there's people that was like, well, I wanted to buy you a drink, and then there's the people who were like, I want to buy you a drink. So I feel like it was just a vicious circle of like, okay, Becky Morgan's buying us drinks, so now I have to buy drinks for this person, and then you're gonna buy drinks for this person.
Oh, so
So
you still bought drinks for other people?
yeah, I was still like, oh yeah, like I was definitely like the tap kept flowing all night. So like, but
Money is
but
no object for Robbie Rogers. Money is
it was just
no
really
object.
funny because we kept like, because like, you know how like you go places and like, because what happened was I had a Gotham shirt underneath that Chicago shirt because I was like,
Yeah,
well, it's
because you
cold.
can't have the Chicago shirt touch your skin. Yeah, you need to have a
Yeah,
Gotham shirt
well,
there.
yeah, that too. But like it was really cold that morning when I woke up, so I was like, oh, I got to put on another shirt, and then I put another shirt, and then we ran into the Angel City fans, and they gave me a shirt, so I was like wearing three shirts by the time after the game was over, and we went like bar hopping and everything. It was funny though because our good friend Alex decided like, oh, I'm gonna wear like a Spirit shirt, I'm gonna wear like a Louisville shirt. He had like 4 or 5 shirts on, and we go to one of the pubs after like the game's over and stuff, and Cloud9 is there from Gotham, right? And I'm like, look at this guy. He's wearing 5 different shirts. And Alex tries to be like, yeah, well, he supports Chicago today. And Cloud9 like, you shut up. Like, you shut up. He's our person. You don't say that. Like they
Oh
went after him.
wow, that's
And
good. Alex needs a good humbling.
he does. There was I don't know. There's so many people there. My good friend Hallie like just humbled him all about his love of CC Kaiser. So he definitely got a good amount of humbling over that weekend.
We joke around a lot about John Corleone and his restraining order Rose Lavelle has against him. I think CC might have the same thing for Alex. I'm a little more worried because they're in the same city, so that kind of frightens me a little bit. A little bit. So what are you going to school for? What are you going to school for?
I'm going for sports administration, so
Oh, nice. Okay, so are you doing like classes online, or are you going to
so
travel
yeah, it's
there to
all
take?
online. And then
Okay.
towards the end of the semester, I have to do like a couple like I can't think what they're called. Like when you do them in person, and you have to like show that you're like
Yeah,
um
okay. You have to do some sort of project or some sort of
yeah, it's like
term.
something like that, or like internship, or like hey, show that you're working in like the local sports community. So,
Oh, nice. Okay, that's awesome, man. No, that's
but
cool.
that's
That's
like that'll be like 4 years down the road. So I just started with
yeah.
like that courses again. So
Well, that's great. No, that's awesome that you're able to find that. That's the same thing whenever I was going to school. I was going to school for business stuff, and it was just because I thought I had to do it for my I work at an insurance company. I thought, oh, I have to I should just go for business and blah blah blah. Well, my company will pay for a certain amount for any bachelor's degree, any of them. So I was about like 2 semesters away from graduating. And I was just like, if they're going to pay for it, I'm switching. I'm changing. I'm doing something I want to do. And I looked around too online for schools, and Penn State was one that has a really good journalism school, and you can do it online, completely online, all of it. So I kind of did the same thing. Now I didn't dive headfirst into Penn State everything. I do own a lot of blue and white gear. I will say that, but I had a little bit of a conflict of interest this year when it came to writing about sports. That's cool. So your basketball history goes all the way back to when you're a kid. I Anything basketball related for me, I found it myself. It started with the NBA because that was the easiest thing to find was the NBA. And after a few years, like as I grew older, I think it was just hard to find other kids. Like I tried out for the basketball team in middle school, but they made us run suicides after we did like shoot arounds and stuff. After the suicides, the first day was done, and I was like, I'm not coming back. Deuces. And I never went back again. But it seemed like basketball kind of ended for me for years. Like I would watch LeBron James and I would watch his runs when he was with Cleveland, and I liked watching that. But I remember, I'll probably age myself a bit, but watching UConn players like Diana Taurasi when she was in college, watching her on ESPN when I was like in middle school, high school, whatever, even seeing like Brittany Griner. I know that situation right now is so horrible. If you haven't read anything about it, Brittany Griner is currently in jail in Russia on some bullshit bullshit arrest. But I was watching her at Baylor, and she was insane. She was just stupid. Like she made everybody else look awful because she was just destroying people, blocking, shooting. Like, and she's still in the league, one of my favorite players. So I remembered college basketball just whatever I saw on like ESPN, whatever I saw on Sports Center. But last year when I joined Beyond Women's Sports, which I don't write there anymore, but still a great site with great people and great articles. It's awesome. I started to talk every day with people who would pretty much exclusively talk about the WNBA. They were talking about the WNBA. It was right whenever March Madness was going on for the women last year. So Indiana was kind of making a run, Arie McDonald in Arizona making a run, South Carolina, all these great teams in this. I think it was Stanford last year who won, right? Stanford beat
yeah,
Arizona in the final. That's when I was like, okay, I started watching the whole WNBA season. And then this year when college picked up, it was maybe about a week before the college season started. I'm like, I have this media outlet I write for. Ohio State's literally in my backyard. It's about 15-minute drive for me. I'm just going to see if I can get a credential. I emailed them and said, hey, I write for this outlet. Can I write about Ohio State this year? And they were like, sure, come on in. So I started covering Ohio State all season, and they just happened to have a really great season whenever they came in with no expectations. They lost 2 players in transfer. They lost their starting point guard to a season-long injury, and it didn't look like it was going to be that great of a season for them. And over the last few months, I switched media outlets, but I still wanted to keep covering. I didn't want to quit like 2 months left in the season. I wanted to keep writing about the team. And then they win the championship, they win the title, the regular season title, and it's just kind of surreal to be back into something that when I was a kid I loved watching basketball. I collect more probably basketball cards than I collected baseball cards. Like I just loved it. And now um it's most of the stuff that I watch. I'll watch my soccer teams, like I'll watch Liverpool, and I'll watch the Columbus Crew, and I'll watch the Chicago athletes who play soccer in the NWSL. I won't say the name of the team. And outside of that, soccer wise, like I have a few teams I watch. I'm usually watching some sort of basketball game. My wife is at the point where she doesn't even comment about it anymore. I'm turning on some women's basketball game. I haven't watched a minute of any men's college basketball games, but I've watched like any game that's on. I'm just watching it, and it's not just for writing purposes. It's just for enjoying watching it. So before you get into because Robbie brought an entire list of things that he did at this tournament. Craziness. I saw some of it on social media. There's things on here that I don't even know about. Robbie told me a few things before the podcast. Apparently, the crowds are a little different with soccer and basketball in terms of the trash talk and stuff. So Robbie's going to cover a lot of stuff that I'm probably going to have my jaw dropped. So I'll get my boring piece out of the way. Ohio State skipped right to the quarterfinal. I would love to have gone to the tournament every day and watched every game. I could not do that. I stayed at home for the quarterfinal just because, wife and 3 kids here. I didn't want to leave for multiple days. And then I was going to go. I went Saturday for the semifinal. I was going to drive home Saturday, drive back on Sunday if Ohio State won. So usually when you cover sporting events, and you've covered sports before, Robbie, and you've been to matches and games, and you're pretty high up. Every time I've covered a sporting team, I've been pretty high up. I've been at the Ohio State basketball games during the season. We're in this corner where we're not too far. We're not too far from the court, but we're on one of the corner sections of the arena. Going to the Big Ten championship, I was on the court. Like I would, those little TV stands, those signs that you have on the floor, I was sitting right next to the corner 3. I was sitting right there. It was so much that the person next to me was afraid that a basketball would hit him. So they would keep looking up the whole time just so they won't get hit with the basketball. That's how close we were. Ohio State ended up losing, but it was still a pretty fun run, and being that close in any game is pretty amazing. And plus they'll still be in March Madness coming up this Sunday whenever they pick the tournament brackets and all that good stuff. But I'm going to let my boring story fall to the side. I would have loved to have more, but I stayed for one game. I couldn't see the craziness that is Caitlin Clark scoring 41 points in the game after the one that I was covering, or them winning the championship the next day. But Robbie, whenever you drove there, and you had texted me this, we were talking about this a little bit before you left for the tournament. You had somebody call you out on a radio show, right? What? Tell us, set up this story. This is before you even get to the tournament. You were already like, hype machine was already going, and other people are talking about you, Robbie, coming to the SEC tournament.
So what had happened was, like I said, like I dive into women's basketball. So every week I call in to the Kim Mulkey show. Like I'll call him with a basketball question, a pop culture question. Well, they eventually found out like, oh, this guy's in the military. Like he's not actually living, because I'll call him from like, it's my hometown. So it'll be like Euless, Texas. When you call in, they're like, oh, we have Robert Rogers calling from Euless, Texas. I don't claim Connecticut as my home state. Texas is my home state. And
you're one of those Texans, right? Texas is its own country. Like you're a Texas resident, not a U.S. resident.
Yeah. But so I got called in and I was like, hey, like I'm in the military. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like I want to support your team in other ways. What ways? Well, Coach Mulkey is extremely pro-military. Like her dad was a Marine. Like, the whole South is very pro-military. And
right.
He's like, well, I have to meet this guy. We got to set something up. When he gets to Nashville, and they're like, hey, come find us in Nashville. So Saturday rolls around, my leave period starts. I'm driving down, starting my drive south. I had initially, I was going to poke around in Virginia, go do some sightseeing. And then I was like, wait, LSU ends the regular season tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I go on StubHub and I'm like, let me get myself a ticket. I'm going to drive. Like, I'm going to haul butt and I did the math on it and I was like, I can get to Knoxville like 45 minutes before tip off and I'll be good. And then, so I'm like hauling butt down the road. I'm like posting pictures on like I do for NWS Ultras where I'm like, I'm one state away, like go Tigers. posting all this stuff on social media. I'm like freaking out because I'm like, I'm actually doing this trip right now. I get to Knoxville, and let me tell you, like, add this to your bucket list, and I'm gonna call out Bryant because he lives close.
Yeah.
Bryant needs to get to a Tennessee women's basketball game because let me tell you, like men's or women's basketball, you are not going to find, and this means you like I'm 100% like I am not a Tennessee supporter, but like let me tell you that environment they make for the Lady Vols is like nothing I've ever seen in basketball. And I've watched men's basketball, I've watched NBA, WNBA, like I've watched all those games, I've been to those games, and like I tell you what, like my ears were ringing for like 30 minutes because they packed that arena. And like that home field advantages, home court advantages is ridiculous. They have like a whole student section. They have like the pep band is there, the cheer squad.
And it's actually full of students. It's not like
full of students. Like and like they get loud, they do chants. You hear Rocky Top like 30 times during that game. And let me tell you, like as someone that grew up watching sports in the South and stuff like that environment, like it may be a little bit uncomfortable because I was like, man, I'm used to this like pro, like SEC football games. So man, like I'm energized up and I'm in enemy territory. And like, let me tell you something, like this is crazy. So halftime rolls around and I go wander down towards where the commentators are. And I go up to like the radio host, Patrick Wright. And I'm like, hey, I'm Robert Rogers. And it takes him a second to realize like, oh, this is the guy that calls in. And his eyes get real big and he's like, oh, hey, come by after the game. We're gonna introduce Coach Mulkey. I can't believe you're here right now. And like, so hey, man, like I'm happy to be here. I love my Tigers, And so I go back up. Post game rolls around, and he starts flagging me down and stuff. And then like, Coach Mulkey comes back out to do her post game radio show, and like, it's like you can. I don't know how the Big Ten is, but like the players still stick around and sign autographs and take pictures.
Yeah, they do that. Yeah.
And so, like, all the players are sticking around taking pictures, and I see, like, Autumn Newby, and I wave her down, and all the media people for LSU are like, it's that guy that calls in from the radio show. Hey! So, like, I'm yelling at Autumn Newby, who, like, you obviously see, like, a tweet about her and, like, post Instagram.
I see this stuff on Insta all the time, yeah.
And so, like, I've become, like, pretty good friends with her, and she's like, yeah, I know him. Like, it's cool. And so we're, like, chit-chatting, and then Coach Mulkey comes over to me and gives me, like, the biggest hug, and she's like, thank you for all you're doing. I'm like, oh, my God, like you're literally like one of my favorite coaches in all of basketball. Like I want to talk about you. And then she's like, no, I want to talk about you. And then she like kind of like horse collars me. And she's like, hey, this is Robert Rogers. Like he's in the Navy. Everyone can meet this guy. So all these Tigers fans are just swarming me, talking to me. And I was like, stop. Like I'm going to start crying and stuff. And then like she would go do her radio show. But every commercial break, she would like tap the guy on the shoulder and be like, hey, like let me know when I have to go back on because I want to talk to my friend Robert over here. And I'm like, did Coach Mulkey just say we're friends? Like, and
wow, damn, man, that's so awesome.
Yeah, so then all of them were like, hey, we'll see you in Nashville, whenever the tournament rolls around. And so I leave, and it's just crazy. And like everyone in Tennessee was real nice. Like all the fans were like, hey, we're glad you had a great time. Like, tell me about your experience. Like they're all stopping me on the way out the stadium. Like it was like nothing I've ever seen. Like it was probably a line 100 to 150 yard line to get into the arena. Like
kids like waiting in line to get tickets or to get into the stadium or arena.
And like I was talking to one of the Tennessee media people, and she was like, "Yeah, this weren't really a big crowd." I'm like, "Are you serious? Like, there's probably like upwards of 13,000 people here." And like, she was like, "Yeah, we've had more games." And I'm like, "Are you kidding?" She's like, "Yeah, this is a pretty small crowd." She's like, "You should be here for like Thursday night games." And I was like, "What? Like, it gets crazier than this." So. But then It was like real cool because like the next morning, like I stick around Knoxville because I want to go to Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. And so I go to breakfast at like this local diner, and I heard like Pat Summitt used to go there all the time. And so I was like, I'm gonna go check this out. And literally everyone at the restaurant is talking about the game the afternoon before. They're like, hey, was you at the Lady Vols game? Like I was like, yeah, I was cheering for the other team. And like it was the coolest thing ever. Like everyone in this diner is just talking Lady Vols basketball. And I'm like, I literally want that environment for every single women's sports team. Like I just want that environment. And I was like, God, this is amazing. Like I know Tennessee has a big culture with Pat Summitt, but like,
yeah,
I didn't like, it's like one of those things where like seeing is believing, and you're like, wow, like I've heard about this before, but like being at that game is just insanity. Like even as an opposing fan, man, I respect this. So
that's insane, man. Yeah. No, Tennessee is known for their love of basketball for sure. And were you around like other LSU fans in the game, or where were you
So
sitting? Were
I
you
was by myself, surrounded by nothing but Vols fans,
like,
and
did you talk to anybody? Were they pretty friendly though? They're in Tennessee. They're
they
pretty
were real
friendly.
nice. Like they were like, "You having a good time?" Like they were like talking to me. They were real nice. Like they were real friendly. But man, once that game tipped off, like it was loud and it was just something else. But yeah, it was just like you gotta get to that game. I'm challenging Bryant next year, 2023 season. You gotta get up there. You're close, buddy. You have no excuses. So it's a couple hour drive up the road, and you will not regret it. So
In the
like,
Big Ten, like whenever you talk about that, like Maryland, they don't get much support. Like seeing Ohio State go to Maryland, they were maybe a couple thousand, if that, in the stadium. And you have a team that's like top 10 ranked, top 15 in the country, and you can't get people out to it. If you're looking at the teams in the Big Ten, the ones that get the most crowd are Indiana Hoosiers, because Indiana, they eat, sleep, and breathe basketball. Like basketball's their thing. And Iowa Hawkeyes, actually, Iowa and Indiana are great when it comes to crowds. Just I have not been there, but just seeing the crowds on TV whenever they played Iowa, which Ohio State beat Iowa in the regular season in Iowa City, it's packed and it's all yellow. The whole stadium is yellow and black. It looks kind of like a crew match if everybody wore yellow. That's what it feels like, and it's just kind of raucous. It's Ohio State, unfortunately, is how do I put it nicely? It's not that it's not anywhere close to raucous at all. They're playing in this arena called the Schottenstein Center. It's too big of an arena for college basketball. It's way too big. It's like you're in a cavern mostly. It's so quiet whenever you're going through. And before we get to the tournament, I do have to ask you, there is one thing though that keeps Ohio State exciting and relevant, and that is probably one of the best mascots in the whole country, Brutus Buckeye. Robbie, I take a picture of Brutus every time I go to a game. At the championship, I took a picture of Brutus with the guy next to me. He's looking at me. I was like, I have to take a picture of Brutus. I got to send it to my friend Robbie. Every single game, I have to find Brutus and get a picture.
so one of my favorite things about college sports is the mascots. Like I
Right.
don't care what team it is really. Like I just love the mascot stuff, and like they do ridiculous stuff. It's just a fun thing. So like just what I mean. Like it doesn't matter what team it is. Like if you're doing something funny or like I'm like that's hilarious. Like that's awesome. But like this is a funny thing. So when I was on deployment, the last time I deployed, I literally like you get real bored underway. So I took the time to learn every single NCAA school's mascot and the mascot's name. And so people would try and like quiz me. They'd be like, okay, what's Ohio State? And be like, Bruce Buckeye. And then I like
Oh,
tell them
of course. Yeah.
Buckeye. They're like, I was every single Division I school. I memorized all of them. And people would be like, hey, did you know that he can name all the mascots? Like, go try and stump him. So that was one of my weird quirks on deployment is I can name any mascot and the mascot's name
Wow.
and like the origin of the mascot. And people are like, this dude's ridiculous. So
What's Iowa's mascot? What's Iowa's mascot name? The Hawkeyes. What's their mascot's name?
oh my gosh, I can't think of what his name is. But
You're
yeah,
on the spot.
it's all left my brain.
Oh,
So
that okay, okay. That's
it's
fair.
like one of those things where if you don't think about it or whatever, you don't
Yeah,
like
it's not. You're probably replacing some mental real estate for more important things than the origin of every mascot in NCAA Division One.
but it was like there's nothing else to do. And then we all like to talk about college sports. And I'm like, for some reason I was like, I'm gonna memorize all the mascots and their origins and their names and how
Hmm.
they got that mascot. And so when
Yeah.
people get bored, they'd be like, we're gonna try and stump him, we're gonna get him. I'll be like, no, you ain't. Like
So next year, I'm going to try to get to Bloomington next in the fall, whenever Ohio State, because they have to go out there this year. They came to Ohio State this year. I am going to go check out Indiana because they're like their arena is one of those ones that the kids are like on top of the game or on top of the court. Like it seems like there's just a wall of people everywhere. So that'll be pretty fun. So okay, let's talk about the tournament. Before we get in, what was LSU's seed in that tournament? Did they have any buys? Did they have like a first round
they had
buy
a
or
double buy. But I would like
okay.
one more Knoxville story. So
Oh,
I
okay.
do when I go on vacation or leave or anything, I have a rule that I will only eat at local regional restaurants.
Right.
So I was like the night after I went to Basketball Hall of Fame, I was like, I want to go try something. What's near my hotel? I ended up at the home of Vol Call, the Tennessee radio show, and they have the women's basketball assistant coach talking about LSU's loss. And I was like, they're like, we lost to the Tigers. And I was like, go Tigers. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm in the wrong restaurant for this. And it was just, everything was ridiculous. Like every day of the trip just got more and more ridiculous as it went.
Did they bring you on the radio show? Like, we have an
Yeah,
LSU Tiger fan here.
I kept trying to call in and ask questions, but they're like, this dude ain't gonna answer nothing.
Were you wearing like LSU gear the whole time you were down
No,
there?
I think that day I was just wearing like a nice button down or something.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
when I got the Tigers in the restaurant, I think I kind of gave myself away.
This guy keeps calling in. I'm not going to let him on the air. He's going to talk about them LSU Tigers.
I was gonna ask a nice question, so I was gonna ask who has better fits, Kim Mulkey or Kelly Harper, and why is it Kim Mulkey? So,
Oh, dang. Okay, throw a little shade. So, what? Anything else from Knoxville or from here? You pack up and you head to Nashville.
yeah, so I had to Nashville, get in Tuesday night before the tournament starts, and then like that was just it gets even more crazier because I don't know if Andrea Carter, Tennessee great, last player Pat Summit ever recruited. I met her at the UConn Louisville game back in December, and she was the one that gave me the idea to like, hey, you should go to the SEC tournament, man. Like, that'd be awesome. So she gave me the idea to go. So she's like, hey, find me when you get to the tournament. And like, I felt dumb because I felt like it was like looking for a needle on a stack of needles because there's so many people there. And I'm like, where's she at? Like, I'm looking around the sidelines, and then all of a sudden I see the big SEC network booth, and I'm like, there she is. So I go talk to her, and then I was like telling her about everything. I was like, yeah, I drove to Knoxville, then I came here. And she's like, wait, how far is that? And I was like, well, I mean, like, it's normally like 16, 17 hours, but with traffic, it should be about 20 hours. She's like, did you say you drove 17 hours? I was like, yeah, I did. Like,
Jesus, man. You're using all your leave time.
I know. It's like, I was like, I want to go all out. It was my birthday and everything. So I was like, let me make this one heck of a trip. And then it turned out to be like the best week of my life, probably, so far, So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I get there, I'm talking to her, and then I'm like, well, who else is in the booth, So we're chit-chatting, and I see Alyssa Lang, and I see her, and I was like, oh, I want to introduce myself. I'm like, how do I introduce myself? I'm like, hey, I'm that guy that always tweets about your dog Marvel during college football season. She's like, hey, yeah. And then so we started talking about her dog, and then we started talking about basketball, and then I'm like, hey, you're like the SEC Network foodie. Like, can you give me some restaurant recommendations around Nashville? And she's like, oh, of course I can. So like, it was awesome meeting her, and then that was just crazy. And then they're like, yeah, like come see us whenever, during the week and stuff. And I was like, hey, yeah, like I was like talking to her, and like we're taking selfies and everything, and just having a grand old time. Like, and just I was just bumping around the arena because like it was day one, so like there weren't that many fans there, but it's still pretty packed. Vandy played day one, and they were the home team, so of course like half that. And Vandy, that's basketball is their big thing other than baseball. So like they don't have no good football team. So they're like basketball. So like half the stadium's Vanderbilt fans. So I'm just bumping around being like, oh, let me watch this game from anywhere in the arena right now.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool. But then the next day rolled around, and that's like
real quick about the neutral site thing about Vandy playing a home game. The semifinal, Ohio State versus Indiana Hoosiers. They're playing the Hoosiers in Indianapolis, Indiana. It was about 8-2, Indiana to Ohio State fans. It was an Indiana home game. Don't give me that neutral site bullshit. That was not neutral site when you're like playing in a basketball crazed state and the home team is playing. No, stop with that neutrals. Ohio State was the home team because they were the one seed. Get out of here.
You know what I mean though? Like, but you can't really play a game in the South and not have like a home state team, like because they do the game in. If it's in Atlanta, then it's Georgia. If it's in South Carolina, it's Gamecocks. You know what I mean? Like you can't. If it's in Kentucky, it's gonna be Lexington. You know what I mean? Like
you're gonna. That's true.
I mean, it's really hard to be like we're gonna be a neutral site, and like in a state where literally like every single state has a team that it has diehard fans, except for Florida. Florida, they had the worst fan attendance of that tournament. So. Which isn't a so.
No, Florida is like the Gators. It seems like they're outside of football. They're pretty fair weather basketball fans.
Yeah, they didn't. Every other school, like there were hundreds of fans there, and even like when schools were getting eliminated, like Texas A&M got eliminated day one, and there's still like tons of Aggies wandering around the arena. Like it was crazy. But yeah, the next day just gets like if you thought like okay, I was like. Because I was talking to Alyssa Lang, she's like, yeah, you're going to have a crazy week this week. And I was like, I don't think it's going to be that crazy. It'll be a little bit crazy. but she could not have predicted what happened the rest of the week. So we rolled to day 2 of the tournament, which was round 2 day. So we roll into that day. The morning starts out with an amazing overtime game between Arkansas and Mizzou. And I'm texting my good friend Nancy, who's watching the game. She's gonna be in the tournament a couple days late. She's gonna be there a couple days later to join me for the tournament. And I'm like, man, it'd be really great if this game went to overtime. And this game went to overtime. And I was like, did I manifest this? Like,
you're prophetic.
I was like, I just want this game to be in overtime because I don't want them to stop. You know what I mean? Like, it was such a great game that I was like, I don't want either team to lose. Can we just go to overtime and I just get a little bit more of the game? And then it did. And I was like losing my mind. So then like, I'm going to go sit in my regular seats, So I go sit down and all of a sudden, like, number 1 South Carolina comes out their locker room and they come sit in front of me. And so like Destiny Henderson's on my left, Aaliyah Boston's directly in front of me. And I'm like, what is my luck right now?
Did you talk to anybody?
No, I didn't. They looked like they were in their own thing, and I didn't want to be like that person,
Right.
So,
yeah. You don't want to be like too fanboyish and stuff.
Yeah. I'm not a big autograph person to be like.
Me either. Yeah, I don't do autographs. Yeah.
I'd rather have like a moment or like, hey, like this happened, or you know what I mean, or like a picture. But like, I'm not a South Carolina Gamecocks fan, so I mean, granted, they have like 4 WNBA potential draftees, but I wasn't gonna be like, oh, like, and I was wearing this that day. So they definitely, which I'll get to in a minute. So they definitely was about to be like, but it was really funny though, because every time the players took like an Instagram story, there was me in the background.
I need to go look at did you screenshot any of them?
I didn't because I don't follow any of them, but I got like, it was one of those things where people were telling me about it and they're like, hey, you sing behind the Gamecocks? And I was like, yeah. And then I tweeted about it and everyone's like, yeah, that was definitely you. So
that's hilarious. Yeah. So Leah Boston's like doing a story on Insta and you're just sitting in the back there like
I'm just sitting in the background like eating a bucket of popcorn. Like I was like, yeah, overtime, and then here I'm just eating a bucket of popcorn during that game. But then like I see Don Staley, and so I go wander over, and I was like, Don Staley's pretty good friends with Kelsey Trainer. I'm pretty good friends with Kelsey Trainer. So I'm like, hey, Coach Staley, like, hey, we got a mutual friend. Her name's Kelsey Trainer. And she's like, I love Kelsey Trainer. So I'm like telling her like, oh, that's my first time at a major basketball tournament, and keep in mind I'm wearing this shirt and everything. And she can't see it because she's like sitting in the booth because she just got done interviewing. And she can't see this. And then I was like, yeah, it's my first time or whatever. She's like, yeah, I hope you have a great time. Like, this is a great thing. And then she looks down and sees this. And she's like, yeah, on second thought, I don't want you to have a good time anymore.
Oh, man. She didn't like the LSU Tigers, huh?
She didn't. But then, like, so the next game ends. I go check into my hotel during the hour break or whatever. I come back. That's Kentucky, Mississippi State. That's where it just got insane. So I had brought, because I was like, I want to give Coach Mulkey something, you know what I mean? So I had my Dallas jacket that I wore when I was deployed, and I was like, I feel like she'd really like this. So like, I'm going to give this to her when she comes over to do her halftime interview with like Andrea Carter. And so I like had that, and I was like holding it under my arm during halftime, and I go to like give it to her, and like this security guard like starts yelling at me. And he's like, you don't know her. Like, you can't talk to her. And I'm like, I definitely know her. Like, have you not listened to the Lady Tigers radio show? Like, Fighting Tigers radio show? Come on.
I don't think the security guards in Nashville are up in the Lady Tigers radio show, Robbie.
Like they're just like, hey, the Fighting Tigers, But yeah, not Lady Tigers, just the Tigers. I was like, Lady Balls. There we go.
Lady Balls. Yeah, that's what I was. Okay.
I was like having a little bit of, I had 2 thoughts running together. And, those like security guards started yelling at me. I'm like, dude, I've been going over to the booth every day. Like, I know everyone in the booth right now. Like, I've been talking to them for like the past 3 days or 2 days or whatever it was. And so like, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to throw it. So I like underhanded, and I was like, Coach Mulkey. And I threw it to her, and she was like, is this for me? And I was like, yeah, it is. So then like I sit back down, and then I like look over, and she wanders back over to where LSU's sitting, scouting the game. And then all of a sudden she's like motions me over, and I was like, So then I get over, I walk around, go to where she's sitting at, and she's like, hey, you want to meet my family? And I was like, yeah, of course. So she's like, oh, that's my mom down there. Go introduce yourself. She knows all about you. Like, go talk to her. And then so like, I'm talking to like Kim Mulkey's mom, and she's like, oh, go meet my grandbabies too. And I was like, yeah. Like, so I go down there and I meet like her kids and grandbabies. And then like I go to leave, and she's like, where do you think you're going? And I was like, I'm I was gonna go back to my seat, and she's like, no, like sit here. So we're like chit chatting. So I'm like sitting watching the game with her. Like we're just chatting about like she's like, oh yeah, like look at that, and she's like showing me how she's scouting Kentucky and everything. And I was like, this is crazy. Like I'm sitting with a Naismith Hall of Famer. She's like talking about, and then she's like telling everyone around her, like all her like friends and family, like, yeah, this is a good friend of mine. His name's Robbie Rogers. You gotta meet him. And then like LSU fans start coming over. They want to talk to her, and she's like, hey, have you met my friend Robert? He's in the military. He's a real good guy. And like I was just like, this is crazy. But it gets like, and then so you know how when NCAA's roll around, they'll like show the team that's gonna play next up in the stands, or like, hey, this team's playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they flash up to LSU because like we're number 2 seed in the tournament, and it's like my phone's blowing up, and it's like wah, 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 wah. And I'm obviously not gonna pull my phone out, but I'm like I left that game, and people were like, were you still on ESPN, like sitting next to Tim Mulkey? I was like, yeah, that was me.
Oh my Lord! Wow.
So I'm like sitting there, and
And this is only day 2.
This is day 2 of the tournament. So then I'm hanging out with them, and then Autumn Newbie comes over and talks to me, and she's like, yeah, like how's it going? And like all the teams like, how's it going, buddy? And like they're just all talking to me, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And then Coach Monkey's like, hey, like we're just chit chatting during a game, like casually, like we've known each other forever. And then all these LSU fans are like, yeah, we love Robert. That dude's awesome. And I was like, this is crazy. So then like they all go to leave, and then some of her family friends are like, hey, like, are you going to the send off and the pep rally, the team event? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, we're doing a send off at the team hotel. Do you want to come? We'll give you a couple rounds too. I was like, yeah, that sounds like
like if you
like,
talk to a Becky Morgan, I'm gonna take those rounds. Let's go.
I was like, yeah, like I would love to do that. So then the next day, like Massey rolls into town. We go to the Gamecock. Who are they playing that day? Gosh, I can't remember. Oh, Arkansas. They were playing Arkansas. So they totally ran over Arkansas. So then I tell her, like, hey, I gotta go. Like, I'm going to the LSU team event send off. And she's like, that's crazy. So she sticks around for the Ole Miss Florida game, and then I go walk down to the hotel, which is like a mile and a half. I don't know if you've ever been in Nashville, but like Uber is like $40 on weekends. So I was like, do I want to spend $40 or do I want to walk like a mile and a half to the hotel and take?
That's nothing. Yeah.
It was like an hour Uber, and I'm like, I'm not about to miss everything. So like I showed up at the LSU bar at the team hotel, and it was like everybody knew me. And like these people in the back, like in the bar, like I see Kim Mulkey's mom, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? Like I met you yesterday, and like I'm talking to her, and then like I go over and talk to some more people. They're like, you're that guy that calls in the radio show. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like that's me. Like, and they're like, you're awesome and everything. And then like I get to the bar with like where a bunch of her friends are at, and they're like, hey, do you like Bloody Marys? I'm like, yeah, I do. And they're like, we already got you one. Like,
oh my gosh, crazy. This is a story about the fandom of women's sports. This is, you don't hear this with men's sports, men's basketball, you don't hear this.
But yeah, like, and then like, so I have two, as you know, I like to make posters for games. So it's kind of like a thing I like to do.
Interesting. Huh.
So I have these 2 posters rolled up in my arm, and people are like, hey, what do your posters say? And like, so I wanted to like Mulkey Graws. And obviously I have to make one for my favorite player. So I wanted to like go Autumn, GA, UX. And like everyone's like, hey, let me take your picture with the signs and everything. And like, it was crazy. And then like we all go out in the hallway, and it's just like I said, like the fan bases are totally different, because if you're an LSU fan and you see someone in a different team jersey or like a shirt or anything, you start yelling Tiger Bait at them. So there's probably like several hundred of us in this bar, and Tennessee fans start walking through. So we start yelling like Tiger Bait, and like there's 150 of us yelling at them, and they didn't like that very much. And then at the same time, this like local country singer shows up. Everyone wants to start out in Nashville.
Everybody in Nashville's a country singer. Yep.
Yeah. So she's like, how am I gonna make tips? Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna play songs about Louisiana with these drunk Cajuns, these partying Cajuns. So she starts playing like Louisiana Saturday Night, Down at the Twist and Shout, and all these LSU fans are just going crazy, like yelling at LSU fans, singing Louisiana Saturday Night. And like the hotel staff, like they were like, you all gotta go. And we're like, no, we're trying to do our team send off. You let Tennessee do their team send off. Like, why can't we do our thing? And we were like, we just drank that bar out of liquor pretty much. Like those LSU fans know how to throw down. And like they threw. I'm pretty sure we drank that bar of alcohol and liquor and everything. And I was like, man, these people are awesome. And so like they throw us outside. They're like, get outside. You can greet the team out there. So we're like outside and like the little entrance of the hotel. Then like the pep band shows up, the cheerleaders show up, and we're still like going crazy. Like the pep band starts playing all the fight songs and everything. So people are going nuts, and they're doing like cheerleaders doing cheers, and like people are going nuts. And then the hotel, like two people in the hotel come outside. They're like, y'all got to get off the property. And we're like, no, get out of here. Like, you're not about to move 300 plus people off of this property, half of which are loaded on alcohol. Like
Oh my God.
crazy. And then the team comes out and like, we're just going nuts. And then I felt bad because I almost accidentally decked an LSU fan because I was getting real hyped. And I felt really bad because I was like, yeah. And I was like getting excited. And I almost whacked on him because like all the players come
When
by.
Robbie gets excited, he starts swinging his
Like-
fists. He just throws his fist around.
It was nuts. Like I was getting real hyped and I was getting real hyped. And then like all these LSU fans were like, they're like, hey, do you need to ride to the stadium? I'm like, no, I'm gonna walk back. Like, I don't want to get stuck in an Uber. And then some of the LSU fans are like, well, if you get stuck in our Uber, you can just jump out in the middle of the road. It sounds like a horrible idea. So I appreciate the hospitality. So,
And this is day 3, right? You're in day 3 now.
We're not even to quarterfinals yet. And so this is like halfway through the quarterfinals day. And so like, and then so everyone starts making their way down.
So this is the middle of the day. All of you are just thrashed. All of you are just totally
but it's
wasted.
not like, it's crazy because you wouldn't like, you're just like, man, these fans are rabid and stuff. Like no one's really like fallen over drunk or anything. They're just like, they've been doing that for so long that it's just like, it's like drinking water to them. So like,
so this is the middle of the day, Wednesday, and you're about to go, or the third day, you're gonna go see them play now that night.
Yeah, so we go that night, and like you probably know the fan I'm talking about. So there's this Gamecocks fan that was sitting next to me and Massey, and they were like the person where it's like, I don't mind if you're yelling the team cheers or you're yelling stuff that makes sense during a game. Don't just yell random crap like, oh, ref, you suck, or like stuff you would yell at a TV, or like they were like yelling at the players randomly, and me and Master were like, you don't know those players. Like you don't know them. And then this South Carolina fan started getting real mouthy about the Tigers. And I was like, you ain't about to like start running around. So like Massey had to like be like, okay, buddy, we're gonna go move with some of your LSU friends. Like I was like, you ain't about to start running down my team, and your team ain't even playing. Like that's what's not about to happen. So
that happened during the Ohio State. Like I'm not an Ohio State fan. I'm there covering the game, but we're within a couple feet behind me are fans, Indiana fans. And there's this kid who's probably like 19 years old. Looks like he's never played basketball a day in his life, all decked out in Indiana maroon and stuff like that. And he's yelling stuff at individual players like on Ohio State. And I turned around a couple times. Like if I wasn't there writing, I'm a different person when I'm at a sporting event and I'm not writing. I would have turned around and I said, shut up. You don't like, these are athletes. You're just some schmuck from Indiana sitting in the second row yelling crap at basketball players, and all of his friends are like, hoo, anytime he yells something. Like, shut up, make a friend, stop yelling, don't yell at athletes. Come on.
But yeah, so I had to move in the
and
second.
You decked him, and then Robbie punched him.
I'm not about that. I don't want to get thrown out of the event, especially as a local celebrity now in Baton Rouge.
Right. Yeah, right.
I was getting recognized after the Kentucky game as Kim Mulkey's friend, and I was like, get out of here! Like LSU fans were like, oh, you're friends with Kim Mulkey, and I was like, yeah, I guess. Like I was not about to besmirch my good friend, by swinging on some drunk Gamecock fan. So that was what it was not about to happen. So Massey was smart. She was like, we're going to get you out of here, buddy. We're going to go sit in a different section. So then we go to some of the LSU fans. And then I think it was after halftime, we moved to sit behind the pep band for LSU. And then I was real raucous because I've been drinking all day. And I was like, that game was just Kentucky showed up to play. Like credit to Kentucky. Like they played to win that tournament. And
well, spoiler alert, they did. They beat South Carolina, which nobody was expecting.
But they came to play, and we showed up sloppy in the first half, and but then second half, we came out to play, and then there's just I don't like the trash on officiating, but man, that ref sucked during the second half. I don't know if you've seen the video of the Kim Mulkey technical, but let me tell you, when that technical happened, like I was loud. I was like,
Like you were yelling at the ref.
I was getting real livid and like that. You see, like, because if you watch the clip on TV, it doesn't do it justice. But if you're in the arena, because we were in the LSU section by that time when she got the technical, like it was like people were booing, like there were some angry Cajuns, and like I was getting very livid, and like I start shaking when I get really angry, and so Massey grabs me, she's like, "Stop shaking," and I was like, "I'm so mad right now, like I'm so mad right now," and so
And
like
this is their
oh
quarterfinal, and who are they?
yeah,
They're playing Kentucky.
LSU loses, and I'm all sad. And then I was gonna stick around for that Alabama Tennessee game, but then they're like, I need food. I need to decompress. Like I'm not about this game at all. My team just got eliminated. You know, I still clapped for my team. I was like, good job, ladies. You know, like y'all did awesome. And I was like, this is like I love my team, and I'm always gonna support them. But like, I was like, damn, this is so. I was so devastated that night. I was like, I need food, and I just want to go sleep this off. So
So
and
you
then the
didn't see
next
the last game of the night. And then the next, so you're now to
yeah,
day 4.
the next day was semifinals. So Massey's team's still in it. She's an Ole Miss Rebel. So we go do like that. We go do the non-touristy Nashville thing. So if you're ever in Nashville, like don't do Broadway. It's like $17 a beer. So you're gonna be
So
like,
you went to Grand Ole Opry, right?
we didn't. I go to Grand Ole Opry. I did go to Country Music Hall of Fame, and I feel like that doesn't count because I feel like that's not like a tourist thing where you're like, I'm gonna go see like, I'm gonna go to like oh, like the Johnny Cash restaurant and pay like $18 for a beer. Like
No, 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 no.
it's like, but Country Music Hall of Fame is awesome. So I did that. That was like the most like Nashville thing I felt like I did. So we hit some local bars because she knows the area pretty well. So we hit some local bars, did like a couple blues joints, which were pretty cool. So we did that, and then we rolled into the Ole Miss South Carolina game. And she, while I was at that pep rally, was talking to all the Ole Miss families. So we end up in the Ole Miss family section, and it was pretty much like from that game, it was pretty much the entire SEC fan bases versus South Carolina because
Well, yeah,
like
South Carolina is the favorite. Everyone wants the
yeah,
favorite to lose.
everybody wanted like every. I think I texted people. I was like the entire stadium, but South Carolina fan are rebels right now. Like
Yeah,
everyone, and we're in the family section, and they're like, "Oh, we're so glad to have you in our family section." And like all the Ole Miss families are like, "Yeah, you guys are awesome." And I'm here still wearing like an LSU button down, and I have like I have a button on that says like "Hell yeah, damn right," which is the Ole Miss thing. And they're like, "Hey, we're glad you're on our team today." Like. I was like, I don't want South Carolina to win this tournament. I don't want them to win. I was like, we can't win. They can't win either. So, and then so like that was awesome. And then we stuck. That was like it was just crazy. And then like then we went to the next game, which was Tennessee Kentucky. And that was a crazy game. And then I wanted Kentucky to get destroyed by Tennessee because I was like, I don't want to see Kentucky because they beat us. and then and then they won and beat Tennessee. And I was like, come on, are you kidding me right now? Like this is awful. Oh. So then the next day is the title game, and I was like, do I want to go to the title game? I don't know if I want to go. And I was like, no, you know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. So I go to the title game, and man, like it didn't care who was playing. Like that stadium was just like outside the stadium was just surrounded with people in like all different school colors, and it was just ridiculous. Like it was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen because it's like everyone's just supporting everyone's basketball. So what it is like, okay, my team's out, your team's out. Like we're all just gonna support this game and support like you know what I mean? Like
that's awesome.
so it was just like, but then when you get inside the stadium, you realize that there's like a quarter stadium full of South Carolina fans, and then the rest of the rest of the bowl was every other fan base booing South Carolina.
Oh man, yeah. You have a target on your head when you're the number one all overall
Yeah.
NCAA seed,
So
pretty much. Yeah.
I ended up sitting with a couple of my friends for one of the quarters, and I was just like surrounded by Gamecocks fans, and I was like, I can't do this. So I went and sat with some of my LSU friends, you know, the Mulkey party, as I'll call it, and so we sat and then I sat in the Kentucky family section, and I was cheering. I was like, "Go Bird Blue!" And like I was like, I'm gonna cheer for Kentucky today.
Because it was a real Sophie's choice there. You either had the team that beat your team or the team that could or the team that's South Carolina. So you ended up swallowing your pride and you
Did
said, even though you beat my Tigers,
I
I'm
was like,
gonna root for you, Kentucky.
I couldn't. And Don Staley said she didn't want me to have a good time, so I took that personally. Like,
Okay, Don Staley is a treasure.
oh,
Don't go trashing Don Staley.
I no, I love Don Staley. There's so many. That's the thing I don't like about our conference is there's so many lovable
There's so
coaches.
many likable people. Yeah.
Like you have Coach Yo for Ole Miss, you have Kelly Harper for Tennessee, like you have Don Staley, you have Kim Mulkey, you have Gary Blair. Like you just have so many lovable coaches.
Yeah.
You're like, man, people like care about like player safety. They care about their teams. Like that's one thing. Like I will forever like that technical against Kim Mulkey. I will defend that woman all day because she's concerned about player safety.
Yeah.
Like Caleb Pointer could have been seriously injured, and she chased down that official and was like, "You ain't about to not call this." And it took two basketball players. It took two of her assistants to hold her back. Like she's a quick little woman. Like,
Oh gosh.
so
But if you folks don't know Don Staley is probably the most popular, I would say, of the coaches. Like if you're looking just from the outside inside the SEC, I know it is very tribal once you get into these different college alumni and everyone's fighting for their side. But if you don't know Don Staley, when they won in I think 2017, 2018, I'm not sure of the year. She sent a piece of the net because they cut down the net. If you're not a basketball fan, they cut down the net when they win the title. She sent a piece of the net to every black women's basketball coach in the NCAA. She sent all of them a piece of the net. And she's just like, she's an advocate. She's amazing. And she does, and like Kelsey Trainer, who's been on the show once before, she still has, I think, Robbie, you've been on the show more than anybody else except for Bryant and me, obviously. But you've been on the show more than anybody else, so I think you're up there for one of our best guests. Quality over quantity over quality. I'm just kidding. No, we love you, Robbie. I know we throw a lot of shade on the internet, but we love you. But yeah, Dawn is great people. Anyway, so now you're in the championship game and you're rooting against South Carolina. I already gave away the ending, but walk through the scenario, walk through how you kind of felt going through.
A crazy game. Like I went there and I was like, I got into the Kentucky family section and I was like, I'm cheering to get South Carolina. Like there's no question about it. It's also because that one fan that was a real jerk to me the day before. So I want all the bad things to happen to that person.
Oh Lord, that's great. I love a little bit of vengeance when it comes to sport. I've said this before on the show. Like I'm an adult most of the time, and I feel like I'm pretty responsible. When it comes to sports, you don't have to be responsible. You can be petty and you can be ridiculous. And I think that's what that's what I appreciate about you, Robbie, in this scenario, is that you're now gonna root what the enemy of your enemy is your friend. And now you're rooting for South Carolina to lose by rooting for the team that beat your team. That takes a lot of gumption.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. But just to see like all 13 other SEC schools pulling together to be like, we don't want South Carolina to win something. Because I was like, we were in the Kentucky section, but then up behind me there's like Georgia fans, there's some Tennessee fans down over here. Hey, there's some Vandy fans that have stuck around, like it was just something else. I was like, everyone wants South Carolina to lose. And I was like, this is crazy. Like I've never seen this before. And that like, because you know what I mean? Like you don't get that tournament. You don't get that like in college football. You don't get that tournament environment to where you're like, I'm going to see all the schools of your conference. Like, but you get that in these conference tournaments. So
I have to admit, I used to be so against college basketball because my thing with growing up with the NBA, I was like, well, I like, people that make their shots. I like people to make their shots. Getting into this season, I finally see, oh, that's why people love like conference tournament time. That's why people love March Madness. And like you said with the women's March Madness tournament, I am like, I hate that there's a week off between. Like I hate, like we need to keep going. Let's keep playing. I don't like this break.
I hate it. Like I'm like, what am I gonna watch this week? And then don't get me wrong, like I've been to LSU men's basketball games, but LSU men's basketball, they like to do this thing where we let the opponent score us out by a lot, and then we try and play catch up, and then we start beating them.
I don't think that's what Mulkey's trying to do, but it's nice
that's what the men do, though. I'm saying,
the men. Oh, okay.
Oh my God, the women just come out and they just throw the kitchen sink at you. And I don't know.
SEC men's basketball is garbage. SEC men's basketball is total garbage.
I went to a TCU. So here's what happened. This is why I love my family. So I take my uncle, I take him to like NWSL games. I take him to like all these different things. I'm like, hey, you got to go to these stuff, right? And so I'm like,
Well,
hey,
you're
we're
a
gonna.
Longhorns fan, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
For football, you're an Aggies fan.
No, so I'm an LSU fan all around, and I got
No,
this on my.
before you went to LSU, I
Oh
remember
yeah,
you
yeah.
and your
My parents
sister.
are Aggies, so I grew
Okay,
up being in football
your
games.
sister is an Oklahoma fan, isn't she?
He's a Kansas State fan.
Kansas State, because I
I'm
remember
just
you and your sister. Okay, sorry. So you've ditched all previous allegiances and you are just
I
LSU
literally
now.
like because people at work like today, someone came up to me. We have like a new person because I've been gone for like 2 weeks, so we have new employees show up, new sailors, and one person comes up to me, and this is how I know that I've fully just immersed in the LSU family. Is that this person comes to me like, hey, I haven't met you. Like, I'm Lieutenant whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm YNT Rogers. That's what I go by at work. And it's my rate and my name.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, he's like, you sports fan at all? I'm like, yeah, I'm a big LSU Tigers fan. And I knew like the fact that I just said it like that, I was like, oh,
You didn't even think about I'm a big
I
LSU
didn't even
Tigers
think.
fan.
Like I was like, I love my Tigers, and like I have like at work, I have like an LSU Tiger note. I have like a notebook, and I have a coffee mug, so I walk around with my coffee mug at work. Like it's got like
You have to show the logo too. You can't hide the logo. You got to show the
I
logo.
literally,
Yeah.
so I got two of them because I was like, we like to drink on the show. But I got my women's basketball koozie.
Nice. Okay.
I got my Fighting Tigers of LSU koozie.
Oh,
So,
I'm not using a koozie, but when I went to the tournament, I did buy a Big Ten tournament T-shirt just
yeah,
because I.
I got the specialty one for the Tigers. They had these for every team.
Ooh. I saw, but again, like covering the game, like I'm not an Ohio State fan, and if I was going to root, I'd probably root for Penn State over anybody. But it's so different. Like as you're explaining this, there's like a twinge of jealousy on my part because covering for media, like it's great. I get free food and I sat courtside and I paid no money for it. I get a little lanyard with my picture on it. Like that's all fun, but it's not as fun as drinking as wearing your team's colors, yelling at the game, like singing your songs. Like I'll tap to a song because like I like beats and I'll tap to whatever song is playing, but it's not the same as sitting in an arena with a beer in your hand, listen, like watching the game, getting into the game, and like covering games is stressful. Like to me, covering games is almost like I enjoy it. It's a nice stress though. Like I'm writing about the games. I couldn't tell you what I've written during a game. Like as I'm typing stuff, it just leaves my mind when I'm done. And I have big imposter syndrome where I'm like, why am I writing about basketball? Nobody cares about me writing about basketball, but I do it because at this point, I love it. It's so much fun. But I'm really jealous. So I think next year, well, I'm going to cover again next year. So I'm probably just stuck. But I would love to be part of a conference tournament like that because that sounds like a ton of fun.
It's something like I'm definitely glad that like because as you know, like I don't really write about the NWSL anymore because it's like man,
Yeah.
like when I was covering those games for like I was covering those games for
It's
Gotham,
hard to
like
cover and be a fan. It's hard.
it just I got in trouble because I was yelling at the players one time and I was like, yeah, go this player, and then they were like, don't do that, and I was like,
You
I'm
were in the
sorry, like
media area yelling that.
yeah, it was when Kenny Wright came back from her ACL tear. And it was also the
Okay.
game that got delayed 4 hours. So it was like 2 in the morning and I was over it. And then Kenny Wright ran out on the field to play in the game. And I was like, yeah. And then they were like, don't do that. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, she's like awesome. And I'm happy when like, no matter what's athlete it is, like if you come back from an injury, I'm going to cheer you.
Right. Yeah.
I got really hyped. But then like, I think it was that moment where it was like, okay, here's the beginning of the end of me covering Gotham FC. Because I hate these moments, or like, oh man, like a goal happens, and I can't be like, I have to sit there and be like, oh, like I want to celebrate it. So yeah, I would never have covered that tournament because I would have been in the media booth spelling out the word Tigers, and
Oh man, I'm this when I'm in the stands, I get pretty loud. I will yell pretty like I'll yell at refs, I'll yell at everybody. It is hard for me. Like even Ohio State, like I covering one team exclusively. It's different than covering an entire league. Like I've seen the same players play 20 plus times. And part of me, I'm writing about whatever happens, but part of me is also hoping that they do well. Like I hope they do good. I hope they play well. And whenever they take a three and they miss it, I'll just like, I'll sit there and I'll make like a sound because I'm like, whenever they miss a shot, I'm like, oh, and I still make sound like when I'm there in person. It's so hard to disconnect being a fan of sports and writing about it. And I'm coming from a place where I feel like I write about a lot of sports at this or a lot of teams, and it's still so hard to disconnect even after doing it now for a few years.
But yeah, I just feel like, and like people really get to see a different side of me when I go to like college basketball games or like women's basketball
You sound a
games.
lot different talking about this than you do talking about
They, I
NWSL.
get way because I was like, I love Gotham. Don't get me wrong, but like Gotham FC will never give me a hype to the level of like women's basketball because women's basketball was the first. Like that was the first thing I covered. Or like when I was in college at Oklahoma State,
Yeah.
when I was broadcasting, if you were on the student radio, you got to pick your like, okay, I want to cover these games. And obviously, like people fought over like, oh, men's basketball because we had
I
Marcus
want
Smart.
football. I
They're
want
like, oh,
football.
Mike Gundy's football team. And I was like, I went up to the sign up sheet and I was like, all the women's basketball games. And like, I was, what I mean? Like, I was down there like, oh, and then they're real cool because they're like, nobody shows up to Oklahoma State women's basketball games, which is a tragedy. And so I was down there like, oh, let me interview the players. And they loved that because I was like, oh, I'm on an interview for you for my article for class. And they loved it. And like, so like women's basketball, like, don't get me wrong, I love soccer. We know how much I love soccer, but like women's basketball was my first love of women's sports. It was women's basketball, then it was Team USA softball, then it was women's soccer. Like that's the
That's a,
timeline right there. So
Robbie, I'm glad that you're on the show tonight, and I'm glad that we were able to learn this much about you. That's really awesome, man. That's great.
yes, and you definitely got to go as a fan next year, or like at least for a couple of days. You know what I mean? Or like
Yeah. I
because
need
I
to go
mean
down to Knoxville apparently because
you
going
gotta
down
go.
this.
I am not a biased person when it comes to like if I see a great environment and that environment I just want for all women's sports. Like just like the way that like and they just branded it too. Like you don't see people at those games and like, oh, here's like a U t-shirt. It's like Lady Vols basketball with their logo. Like people were wearing like Lady Vols hats, Lady Vols fleeces, like everything that you would make for like a men's sporting event, they make for the Lady Vols. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. And I was like, I've never seen this. And they have like fireworks shooting up for their entrances, and they're like Smokey the dog's running around, and I was like, this is amazing. Like it was crazy. Like I was like, everyone needs to experience it once. Like even if you go as a neutral fan, as an opposing fan, like they're just so hospitable too. Like I went to a bar after the game that night, and like these Vols fans are sitting next to me, and they're like, "Yeah, you want a beer?" And I was like, like I'm the opposing dude. like
Yeah, you're wearing LSU stuff.
I'm
Yeah.
like wearing an LSU basketball shirt, and they're like, well, I'll get you a beer. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then we're like chit chatting about the ball game like that night. And I was like, this is really something. Like, they're just real nice. Like, they're just a real nice fan base. Like, I have nothing bad to say about them other than like, I might have yelled at a bunch of their fans that they were Tiger bait and got thrown out of a hotel bar. But, like, that's about it.
That's all in
But
good fun.
it's just definitely like, I love going to women's basketball games in person. Like, I went down, I was telling Kim Mulkey, um, I was like, hey, like, I was down there for one of the it was before my sister's wedding. I went and they were scrimmaging Loyola New Orleans that night, and I went and we sat. Me and my mom went. We sat and like behind one of the goals or whatever, and I was like, man, I really wanted to meet her, but she's very. You've seen her during games. She's a very angry woman, and she was
In
like,
technicals.
she was getting technicals. She doesn't off her jacket. The one that scares me is when she's not like yelling at someone, but it's when she goes and leans up against the scorer's table. That's when you're like, ooh, this team's about to run a lot of laps tomorrow. That's the scary one. So if you
So
see,
she's mad at her team at that point.
yeah, when you just see her lean up against the scorer's table, you're like, oh man, practice is gonna be real awkward. So like I ran over and I wanted to go meet Kim Mulkey, and she like very mean, and I was like, I don't know if I want to meet Kim Mulkey. And she was like, so she like asked me, she's like, why didn't you come say hi to me at the Loyola game? And I was like, oh, I didn't know I can meet you. I was like, I was like,
You lied to her. You should have told Kim, "Hey, I was scared of you because you like you were pissed. You look pissed."
I felt bad lying to her, but I was like, I don't know how to tell her that. She's such a nice lady too, and I was like, she was asking about like how my career's going in the Navy. She's like, I'd like to keep up with what you're doing. She found out I was going back to school at LSU. She's like, hey, she was like, if you have any troubles with the admissions office, you just tell them call Coach Kim. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So I can't say enough nice, and I feel bad because like she's like one of those coaches where you love her or you hate her, as you can see by Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, people are either like, oh, she's an awful person, or they're like, I'm going to defend this woman. I'm going to die on this hill.
That's what happens when people have passion. When someone's passionate about something, it polarizes you. People who don't like that kind of show of passion, they don't like it. And that's probably something in their own bodies that they need to fix.
But also, she got taken out of context during last year's NCAA tournament because what they'll do is like, and you know this, the media will take like a big minute and a half thing, and they'll be like, "Oh, it won't take 6 seconds to." And they did that with some of the COVID stuff last year, and they're like, "Oh, look, she hates these protocols." Like, and I was like, "Get out of here! Like, get out of here with that! Like,
You are
listen to the."
you're biased, okay, Robbie. I just want to let everybody know you're
I'm
extremely
biased. I'm saying,
biased.
I hate it when people take stuff out of context and like we're gonna do 6 seconds of this clip, or like just in general for whatever it is. But I'm like, if you listen to the whole thing, you're like, yeah. But I'll defend that woman all day. End of story. So
Okay, okay. Well, thank you for sharing. That sounds like a lot of fun. Like I said, very jealous. I need to go to a sporting event as a patron of sport, not as a media person, because that sounds a lot of fun. That
it's
sounds
just
like a ton of fun.
and I always recommend like I feel like, and I'm this is biased, but I feel like in the South is just a way different environment
It
than like
is. No, it is. It is.
especially in New England. Like you just see that because like I'll argue with people all day. They'll be like, "I love the Patriots," and I'm like, "Pro football sucks. You should watch college football."
Well, because you come from an area where Alabama doesn't have pro sports,
Yeah,
Mississippi doesn't have pro sports, Arkansas doesn't have pro sports, Louisiana you do. You have New Orleans Saints, you have the Pelicans and stuff like that. But you're not in an area where you go to like Cleveland. Within 2 hours, you have Detroit. They have like four pro sports teams. You go to Pittsburgh, they have three pro sports teams. The North is very pro sports oriented, where the South is very, like I mentioned earlier, tribal. It's college, it's SEC country. If you're not an SEC country, they don't like it too kindly down there. Like you have some ACC folks, but really SEC is a language of people down in the South.
but yeah, it's definitely. I'm very biased towards it. I'm more. I don't know if the Sharks or not, but I'm more biased towards that sport than I am for women's soccer.
That's fine. No, I mean that's cool. And I also wanted to tell you, I told you this offline. It's okay to love them both, and it's okay to put your
I'm just.
all into both of them.
It's just very like. Have you ever seen the like the what is it the? It's like the jealous girlfriend meme.
Yeah. I've seen
Or
that one.
I feel
Yeah.
like the one looking back is Gotham FC, and then I'm looking forward at LSU Tigers women's basketball.
Gina feels the pain of all of this that you're sharing.
I know. I just feel like they embraced me too. Like they just embraced me. Like the LSU fan base, just like it took a while for like me to get into Gotham, but it took like a couple of games for LSU to be like,
Well,
this is
because
our.
you're calling out Gotham, you're calling out Cloud Nine's tailgate, saying that local
I
134 is better. You need to
feel
stop calling out your own people. You're not calling out LSU people right now. You're only calling out Gotham people.
I love those people. I don't. Okay, that's not me saying that I don't.
Oh man, I'm reading between the lines. That means you don't love breaking news brought to you by Bryant and me. Robbie Rogers hates Gotham FC supporters.
Oh man, they know that's not true. They
More
need
at
to
11.
in Louisville, so they know that's not true. But you know what I mean? Like it's just a different environment. It's just like
It
it's just a
is.
different, and I feel like it's because I grew up there, and like there's a lot of different things. Like I grew up in the South. I grew up on like Southeastern Conference sports, Big 12 sports. Like I grew
Right.
up in that environment to where like it took a while for me to be like, okay, I would like to get. It took me 2 years to join Cloud9. You know what I mean? Like I was very standoffish. I was very like, I don't know, like if I
Mhm.
want to do this or not. And then it took a pandemic for me to be like, I think I'd like to interact with these people. So
Because we all want to interact with somebody at this point. Um,
yeah,
no, that makes total sense. I mean, I grew up in with a family from Cleveland, Ohio. We grew up with pro sports. I grew up with the Brown. It's totally different. The North and the South are completely different, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with either way. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Any parting thoughts about
um,
basketball? Where do you think LSU is gonna fall in terms of seeding?
so
Because this Sunday at 8 p.m. on ESPN is the selection show for the NCAA March Madness tournament. Where do you think the LSU Tigers are going to land?
I think we're gonna get a number 2 seed.
Two
I'm
seed.
I think we're gonna get a 2 seed. I mean, you
What
just have
was
to
your
look
record on the season?
22-5.
Oh,
We only
okay.
lost to ranked teams because we lost to Florida Gulf Coast, who's 23. We lost to number one South Carolina. We
How'd you lose to
lost.
Florida Gulf Coast? They
Like,
play in like the Atlantic Sun Conference. They
oh,
play nobody. How did you lose the Florida Gulf
that was
Coast?
like the first game of the season. So
Oh, the rust was still there, and there,
yeah, that
yeah,
was like the
okay,
first game of the season, or like the first, you know what I mean, where you don't go beat up on some smaller school.
right.
Because that was our first game we lost, and then we went on. I think it was like a no 8 game winning streak, and then we lost to South Carolina, and then we lost to Florida, who's ranked, and then who else we lose to? Oh, Arkansas. We lost to Arkansas, but it
So
was
you
at
can,
Arkansas, and that's a very tough place to play too. So
so you're gonna drive down to Louisiana for first round game?
I cannot like I already.
Oh, you already used all your leave, pretty much for
I
now.
already burned it, and it's like, well, I burned a lot on this week, but I did decide that if we make Final Four, which I think we will, because like I think we can do it because I think like okay, our early ejection from that tournament in the first quarterfinals, I think that's gonna like be fuel for the team to
Yeah.
be like okay, and then I think the fact that we're really getting disrespected and where they're gonna put us in the bracket because I think I would love for us to get like the Greensboro regional or the Connecticut one because
Well, if you're in the top four, you get your own. You host your own.
well, I'm saying like we'll get like, but I'm saying like if we made Sweet 16 Elite Eight,
Oh,
we
gotcha. Okay.
they're having us right now go to Washington State, and I was like, come on, like put us in the South. Like we're the only team from the like South that's going to be in that. Well, what's predicted? You know what I mean? It's all predictions right
Oh,
now.
bracketology. Yeah.
That's what all the bracketologies are saying. Is like you're on the Spokane, Washington. I'm like we're the only team from the South in that. Like we can't get Greensboro. We can't get like we can't even get Wichita. Like come on, like.
Going out west is not good for East teams. No.
I feel like it's gonna if we do get the West thing, I think it's gonna be a bad thing for the other teams because I think the thing that LSU thrives on is being disrespected. So
Okay.
I think it just fuels them to be like, no, you're not gonna because like look, we were picked to finish 8th in the conference and we finished second.
That's
Everybody
amazing.
counted out. They're like, oh, this team finished with 8 wins last year. Kim Mulkey can't turn it around. She can't be a miracle worker. And then we had the best tied for best turnaround in women's college basketball history. You can look that up. That's a stat. The other best turnaround, Kim Mulkey's first year at Baylor. So there's a fun statistic for
Jeez.
you. So,
Okay. You're getting angry. I like it. You've never gotten
yeah,
this angry about Gina
I
Lewandowski.
think we can make a run to the Final Four, especially because like if they put us in that Pac West bracket, like let me tell you, Stanford is gonna get stomped by LSU, and you can write that down. If we go against
Wow.
Stanford,
Wow. The defending champs are going to be
let me
stomped
tell
by
you,
LSU.
we're gonna take them to school. Like they may have one
Well,
smart
technically,
guy.
Robbie, they're all in school right now.
Well,
They're
they're all in
college.
school, but we're gonna be like, you better have studied for this game because we're about to take you to like.
That's some good trash talking. You better study for this game.
But yeah, I was like, if we go up against that, like, I don't think like, I feel like the SEC is disrespected as a conference because we have a very like, but the thing is like,
It's
the
very
conference,
top heavy. It's very top heavy.
it's like, but this year, like, you look at this year, we have South Carolina, we have Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida, Arkansas, like all top 25 teams, and they're like, oh, but Stanford over here is playing. You know, there's two teams ranked in the Pac-12. It's Stanford,
Oregon,
Arizona. Oh, and
Arizona.
Oregon too.
Yeah.
Story. So,
Well,
but yeah, I
Big
feel like
Big Ten is. Don't discount the Big Ten. We have what
oh,
Maryland,
no,
Indiana,
I'm
Michigan,
not
Ohio
discounting the Big
State,
Ten.
Iowa, and then Nebraska should be ranked. They've played an awesome season. They have never been ranked this season. They should have been ranked. But I think Big Ten might surprise folks. Big
Yeah,
Ten
I
is
think
showing itself as one of probably the
I
best
think that
conferences in basketball.
I think the two conferences to watch for and March Madness is going to be Big Ten and it's going to be SEC. Like I think they're about to like.
The fighting Bukers up in the Northeast. I
No,
think
like
that she came back. She came back at a good time. She's healthy now. They have been destroying people since she
they
came back.
they have such the NCAA has such a love fest for UConn basketball and because
Okay,
I saw
Robbie,
them.
but they're okay. To be fair, they are playing in not that strong of a conference, but
Yeah,
still, they
they don't deserve
they
that number.
win when it matters. And I think you. I don't know. I don't think marketing wise, we could go into a whole thing
Oh yeah,
about Paige Buchers and why she has so much marketing. Probably because she looks a lot like us in terms of skin complexion, but she can also ball. Like UConn is
no,
not a
she's
bad. Like
amazing.
Gino Oriema is not all of a sudden. Oh, we came out of nowhere. They've been good since Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird were playing in UConn. Okay, so they've been playing
I'm
forever.
just saying that all I've heard this season is like, oh, like remember our
Well, it's all
legacy.
they ever going to hear is about
But I'm
Paige
not saying like
Bueckers.
they don't deserve that 2 seed if they
It's like
get
in the
it.
WNBA. All you hear about is Sabrina Ionescu, and she's not even top 10. She's not even
Hey,
top 10 players in the league.
hey, let's not be talking about the New York Liberty. Okay, we're gonna
Hey,
start
okay, Robbie, I'm not lying to anybody. I'm not lying to anybody. Sabrina is not a top 10 player, but she gets talked like she's the top 2 player behind Sue and DT. That's the only people who get talked more whenever you have like Asia Wilson playing out of her mind. And you all know what's going on with the quote unquote marketability. It's
God.
racism. It's racism. Anyway, let's move into something else. I could talk about this for a while.
Oh, I could
And
talk about this for hours.
yeah, I'm excited for the tournament. Even like I'm going to cover Ohio State as long as they're in it. Do I see them making a long run? I've said this on like Ohio State. I was on a Bucketheads podcast. It's Ohio State basketball podcast. They brought me on and I talked a little bit about the Big Ten tournament. I don't see them making a super long run. I think 2 or 3 wins. They have trouble facing off against teams who have really dominant in the paint presence. They don't do well against bigs because Ohio State has lost a lot of like we have. Ohio State has a starter who has started 1 game in 3 years, and she's then started all 27, 28 games this season. So we could talk about that, but even after that, I'm going to be watching as much college basketball as I can digest. And I'm really excited about it because most of the games I will not be covering. I'm only covering Ohio State games, and then the rest of it I'm just going to be watching. And I'm pretty excited about that. Another thing I'm excited about, Robbie, we're not done yet. Thank you for sharing your experience. That was a lot of fun. Before we leave tonight, we need to get into our Ask Bam segment. People think that we're a podcast. We're not a podcast. We're a lifestyle brand. Hashtag lifestyle brand. We're also a hashtag professional podcasters. And we're here to answer the questions that you have for us because, gosh darn it, you come to us for sage-like wisdom and sage-like information. So let's go ahead and just dive into your questions that you shared to us across Twitter and Instagram. Usually Bryant takes up this. He takes up this segment, but I'm running the show tonight with Bryant out of the office, Utu, as we say. We're going to start with Bryant because he actually asked some questions on Twitter coming from at Bryant and me. How big a deal is Charlotte FC setting an MLS attendance record in its first home match? Robbie, what do you think?
I mean, do we want to talk about my opinion of men's soccer? Like, because it's not gonna be very.
74,000 people came to a match for a team that's hot garbage. 74.
I don't know. I can't think of a million other things I'd rather do than be at a Charlotte FC game, though. So,
Oh, snap. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sit with Robbie on this one. The only Charlotte match I want to go to is when the crew is there, and it's because I'm going to be hanging out with Bryant. That's the only reason I'll go to a Charlotte FC match is if I get to hang out with my friend Bryant. That's all I got to say about that. What do you really think about Bryant since he isn't on the show this week? I love him. I think Bryant is great, and I do miss him a lot. Robbie, that's nothing against you. Having you on the show has been a rare treat. But I also do love sharing time with Brian because he is my bestie. My brother from another mother. I love Bryant. So what do you really think about Bryant, Robbie?
I think he's ducking me tonight after saying that he's a Robbie Rogers imposter last week. So,
Oh, snap.
yeah.
Snap, man, you're just bringing the fire
I think
tonight.
that he was afraid to talk
Oh.
basketball because he knows that our conferences are better than the ACC, which he loves.
Oh man, bringing up Florida State. Florida State, we all know, is a baseball and soccer school. Okay, don't bring basketball into this conversation. I don't know if you've heard of somebody called Casey Short,
Okay. Also,
Jalen Howell, Florida State. Let's go.
I didn't actually mean that because I love Ari Chambers and she's an NC State grad. So I didn't
Oh,
mean.
Ari, you're throwing Ari in the. I'm going to add her.
No, I'm not. I
I'm just
love
kidding.
her.
I'm not going to add Ari Chambers. She doesn't care about Bryant and me. Ohio State, though, Nichelle Prince went to Ohio State from Houston. And Penn State, I won't tell you all the players that have come from Penn State. Lil Sanair is one of them. And then somebody who moved over to Gotham FC this offseason, and Ali Krieger. to Nittany Lions.
Rocky Rodriguez. There's another good one.
Well, I'm only sharing the ones from the Chicago and Gotham because that's kind of our deal here. But Rocky Penn State is some. I'm going to go and call Frank out. Frank didn't ask any questions because he dips away from the internet for weeks at a time, I guess. He brought up, like, I don't know about like other schools, but Alabama women's soccer is pretty good. And he showed like they won like 3 trophies. And I was like, wait a second, Frank, let me show you Penn State's history. It's like conference championships, 15, like all these different NCAA titles, like 3. Don't bring anything in Penn State women's soccer because we're pretty good.
All I can say is for him, I would like to see Alabama women's in the tournament, but I won't because they lost. So
Wow.
Roll tears roll. That's what they like to say. So
it's only a football school. They are a one-trick pony in Alabama. Next one this is all from Bryant. He's still asking more questions. Is a dream a lie if it doesn't come true, or is it something worse? I don't. None of my dreams come true.
yeah,
Like dreams in terms of sleeping. I've had dreams in real life, like I'm awake and I dream about things and I do it, but I dream about like a sleep dream. I don't think those are things that come true.
like those are actual things that happen to.
Yeah,
Like,
Brian, take that. All right, if you could
about work, and then you're like, no, like you ever do that where you like dream about work, and then you wake up and you're like, I have to go to work.
I do not dream about work.
Yeah,
I have a very healthy work-life balance,
I've had
Robbie.
that happen before, and they're called boat dreams in my line of work. And I'm like, I had a boat dream last night because you think you're on the boat and you wake up, you're not on the boat, but then you have to go to the boat.
Oh, okay. Wouldn't they be ship dreams? I thought they call them ships.
No, they call submarines boats. So it's
They call submarines boats. Submarines aren't boats. That's silly. Submarines are submarines.
They're called boats. So that's another fun fact.
All right, Robbie. Next question from Brian. He's got 2 more. If you could have the credit for creating any piece of art, painting, music, movie, etc., which piece of art would you choose and why? I would choose the Ghostbusters movies because I love the Ghostbusters movies and they bring me immense joy.
Ooh, man, that's a good question, actually. Man, that's solid. Oh, I feel like I want to go with the Indiana Jones movies, and I love those movies. So
Okay. That's Indiana Jones. Yeah. Last question from Mr. Caves. What do you think is your most justified paranoia? What is something you're paranoid about and you think, yes, this is totally justified?
people that like North Carolina barbecue.
Oh man, paranoia. Oh gosh, Robbie, you're slinging the heat tonight, man. Yeah, I got you talking about Mulkey too much. You're in that zone. You're in that Mulkey zone right now where you're just throwing it. You're yelling at everybody. Oh man.
He's like a number 1 hype person. He's like one of my number.
You're Kim Mulkey's friend. That's what everybody knows you as now.
I know. I get recognized at stadiums. I got recognized at the championship game like 3 times. They're like, "Oh, you're that guy that knows Kim Mulkey." And I'm like,
Kim Mulkey's friend over there. Look at him. He's Kim Mulkey's friend.
All Louisianans are like, "I'm so jealous you know her." And I was like, "Yeah, like."
Cool. Just call into the radio show. Call into the Tiger Radio show and become friends that way. What do you think? For myself, just most justified paranoia. I can't. I'm paranoid about mayonnaise. I really don't like mayonnaise. I think mayonnaise is a waste of good eggs, and I don't think that mayonnaise is good, and I don't think that anybody should eat it. That's my paranoia. That's all I got to say about that. Next question comes from D. Helling Sports, Derek Helling. What would Robbie do to somebody who counts their money sitting at the table? With a link to Kenny Rogers, the gambler.
I don't know why.
Know when to hold them. Know when to fold them. Know when to walk away. Know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table.
I'll probably walk away.
Okay, there you go. Robbie's like, I'm not going to confront anybody. I'm going to walk away.
I'm a very non-controversial. Okay, unless they're talking like.
What are you talking about? You just told a whole tournament story where you're drinking beers, punching people, attacking South Carolina fans, throwing things at coaches. Come on, Robbie. I'm not confrontational. Get out of here with that garbage.
It was an underhand toss, second off. Okay, it was very like,
I'm just kidding.
and it
You
was
were.
like yeah, yeah. That security guard just like, I was like, do you know who I am? Like, do you know who I am? Like,
Do you know who I am? I'm Kim Mulkey's friend.
yeah. He was like, you don't know her, and I was like, I've been here for like 2 days already. Like, I know everybody here now.
Weekend security guards come in. They don't know anything that's about going on
Yeah,
during the week.
walk away. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Um, all right, let's talk about Felix, our good pal Felix. You met Felix at the NWSL Championship
Yeah,
match.
Felix is awesome. That guy's awesome.
Felix and the family. Felix's mom nutmegged, I think, Mike Hudson, which was fantastic. I really
Mike
enjoyed that.
deserved that
What?
because like he deserved to get nutmegged because, and second off, he was cheering for one of my pet peeves. Was like when you're in a fan or when you're in like a, it's different for soccer. When you're in a supporter section, don't wear supporters colors. Just don't do that. Like, just don't wear the other supporters colors. Like, it's not that hard.
He rooted on the Spirit. Not cool.
I know. I was like, man, like you can't do that. Go over to the Spirit section if you want to do that. Like,
Right.
don't be bringing that to the Chicago section, and vice versa. Like, if you're a Chicago fan, don't be in the Spirit section. So,
Yeah. And I did curse at him after the match. And if he would have been to the Spirit section, I would have never done that.
So I'm gonna drop an elbow right here. So for someone that wants to talk about how they're cultured in soccer, they didn't really show it at that game.
What? Dang, Robbie. You've been waiting for this one. You've been waiting for this show.
I was excited. I was like, we're gonna talk basketball, like we're gonna talk a little bit of soccer, but like, man, like give me on basketball, and I was like, let's go. So
Got you
we're
hyped.
not fighting. We're not fighting about like
No.
better, what pizza's better. We're like, hey, let's talk about how much we love women's basketball, which is amazing. So
Yeah, for sure. And I'm all here for it. I let you on the show, so I am here for it. Felix question, thoughts. We're going to talk about NWSL for a second here. Thoughts on the new commissioner and the 5 members of the NWSL board members that were shared in the search committee. I didn't know anything about the board members. I didn't look into that. The commissioner, all I can say is that everyone is going to be watching what you do, and you're going to be on a very, very tight leash, I think, from the supporters.
I would like to say, and we talked about this earlier, kind of. I was like, can we get some diversity on a board? Like, please.
Yeah.
Like, can we not get a bunch of white dudes or white women or like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, come on, like, there's so many people that you could throw on a board, and they're like, let's pick the same people that also are tied to the same crap too. Like, and I'm just like, can we get like a more diverse board? Like, NWSL like sucks at picking boards. Like, that's probably the only thing they're worse at than releasing a schedule on time.
Yeah. That's fair. That's very fair. Yeah, the schedule thing. They release the regular season schedule like a week before the regular season starts. It's ridiculous. It doesn't let anybody really plan for it. And I don't know why you need to wait so long every year. Can't you prep for this like earlier in the season? Can't you prepare for it early? They probably have to wait for the MLS season, to be honest. Once the MLS schedule is done, but the MLS schedule is done in January.
But that's out and USL schedule's out. So I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So you don't have any excuses. Like, I've been betting people that we're going to get the 2022-2023 women's basketball schedule before we get an NWSL schedule.
Probably. That sounds about right, actually. That sounds about right. Next question about Harry Kane. What are your thoughts about the Lord Harry Kane, or do you care at all?
I don't. I don't. Like, I am a huge hypocrite in that I will tell people, like, you gotta give women's sports a try, and be like, go to a game, like go to WNBA game, go to a women's college basketball game. But man, like, you will have to drag me like kicking and screaming to a men's soccer game. Like, I can't get into it. Like, I've tried, and I tried watching Premier League, I tried watching MLS, I tried watching USL. Like, I just cannot get into it. And I feel like it's just like, man, like, it's like men's college basketball. Like, I like it and all, but like, it's just like, it doesn't get me as hyped as like the women's game does. Like, it's just the tactics. I think everything is just like, it just doesn't draw me at all. So I have no opinion on Harry Kane. So
That's perfect. That's the best opinion to have on Harry Kane, is no opinion. Cool. Let's talk about our buddy Jurgen Glog, aka Balding Yoga, aka Pete Gillette. He's a friend here in the Columbus area. Having played for clubs on 5 continents, pretty sure that Kaiseki Honda has the best passport in the men's game. Off the top of head, Katie Stengel and Sam Kerr have played on 3 continents. Can any woman top playing on 3 continents?
Ooh.
Robbie. Katie Stengel has played on 3 different continents. She
Yeah.
played in Australia. She played in the United States for a few teams. Played in Norway and Liverpool now. So she's played on 3 continents. Sam Kerr also played down in the W League. G'day, mate.
Oh.
Played in the USA and then played in Europe.
Liz Eddy, Australia, Asia, Europe, and America.
Where'd she play in Asia?
Uh, she played for one of the Japanese clubs.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then
Well, I think Yuki Nagasato might have as well. I think
she
she
might
has.
just have 3 because I don't think she ever played in Australia. I'll have to look it up. I'm doing that right now as I talk.
And I feel like maybe Savannah McCaskill.
She only played in the W League. There are a ton of players who played in Australia and the United States, a ton of players. But breaking it up into multiple continents, that gets kind of tough. Okay, Yuki did play a year in Frankfurt in Germany, so she has also played in 3. So Yuki Nagasato has one. Her pronunciation with Racing Louisville was great. They
Oh,
did audio pronunciations, and
yeah.
hers was screaming her name. So I love it.
Uh,
Yeah.
I thought of 2 others. Allie Riley might be one because she
Okay.
did play for Iron, and then I feel like she played in W League.
Oh, she did, and she's from New Zealand.
Yeah, and then I feel like the other one would be Lisa
She
Devana.
she never played in the W. No, she's from America. She plays on the New Zealand national team, but she's only played in Sweden, England, Germany, and the United States. Has not played in the W League.
Yeah, my other one would be Lisa Devana. I feel like that'd be another one.
Okay. What about your pal Carly? I know she played in a couple places.
Let's use the term pal. She
What are you talking about?
just like I don't know, like
Only
I'm
US and
not like
England.
I'm not like I don't know what to think anymore about Carly. Like I'm just like you get us like here's the thing that bugs me about Carly. They gave you like the biggest send off tour. They didn't even give Abby Wambach this big of a send off tour.
No.
Like literally every single Gotham game was like a Carly Lloyd finale game. They're like Carly Lloyd's last match versus Kansas City. Carly Lloyd's
Yeah.
last match. Like
To
it's
be fair,
ridiculous.
the league had grown a lot since Abby Wambach had left NWSL. To
Yeah,
be
but like
fair.
he got all those send offs. We did like they moved a Gotham game to Philly, and she's like, "Oh, I hate the national team." I'm like, "Come on, like don't be like that. Like don't." Yeah. So I don't know what to. I don't know. Carly's Carly though, so I'm not surprised. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. So
That's all I got to say about that. Next question from Soccer Noob. At Soccer Noob USA, Soccer and Person Noob, by the way. Great podcast where a person new to the game of soccer talks about soccer all around the world. And his 9-year-old daughter also is on the show. And they just pod about, father daughter things, soccer, mostly soccer. And we had a little snippet on their one of their latest episodes, I think second to last episode. They had Bryant and me record a little snippet, which I'm sorry that you folks had to listen to it. But check out Soccer Noob at Soccer Noob USA. Question: instead of colorizing classic films, so making black and white films in color, would it not be cooler to transformerize every movie, aka making Titanic a 25-minute short, like an example of that? Would you rather make every movie like a blockbuster, cut all the artistic crap out, or would you rather make old black and white movies in color?
ooh.
I kind of like the idea of transformerizing movies because
Like
I
that
don't
sounds
need 3. I don't have 3 hours to watch some movies.
for some of them, like what's that movie that Leonardo DiCaprio's in and he won like the Oscar finally? That was like a 4 hour
The one with the
movie.
bear where he's like chasing bears or
Or,
something like that. I don't know.
yeah. I went and watched that in theaters and I was like, can I get that time back? Like
You watch it in theaters? Oh, I could
oh,
never watch an Oscar movie in
one of
theaters.
my
I need to
friends
watch
went,
it at home.
I didn't know what the time limit was. And one of my friends was like, oh, you want to go see this? I got an extra movie ticket. And I was like, sure, I got nothing to do. And it killed an entire Sunday afternoon. Like, I think we got to the movie and it was a matinee. And I think I left there and it was dinner time. And I was like, what did I
Oh,
do with my life like today?
not good. Not good.
But yeah,
We're
Transformers, that sounds crazy though. I like it. I'm gonna go with that. Yeah, so
Yeah, if we can make any Leo DiCaprio movie 20 minutes, that'd be perfect. Mr. Carr the at the Mr. Carr. Oh my gosh. Without getting too political, come on, Mr. Carr. This is Bryant me. Does the Don't Say Gay bill have any repercussions in the sports world slash NWSL? You already lost like Ali Krieger and Ashlyn Harris. They've already left Florida. You're gonna lose players. You're not gonna, it's not gonna be great. The Florida thing, uh our show started off for folks who haven't been around with Bryant and me for the last 2.5 years, which you've been around that long. We started as like a sports and politics show, and we talked about politics. It's okay to get a little political. This whole Don't Say Gay bill, I even hate talking about it because I don't like giving Rob DeSantis any attention, because that's what he wants. He wants attention. That's what all these people on the internet, whenever they say crazy batshit stuff, is because they want attention. It is going to impact things, but honestly, he doesn't care. He doesn't care if it impacts the NWSL. He does not care at all. It is going to change things, but yeah. Robbie, what do you think?
I just feel like it's not. I feel like you hit the nail on the head, and I really can't say it any better actually. So
It's not worth talking about. It's
I
not
feel like
worth
it's
giving that guy the
not,
attention.
I feel like you covered it pretty well, so I don't got nothing to say about
Okay.
it. So
All right, fair. Mr. Carr's second question. If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? I already answered this question last week. Somebody else already asked this, but Robbie, what kind of tree would you be?
ooh, I don't know. That's really tough. I don't know.
What trees grow in the bayou?
Oh, cypresses.
You're a
Yeah,
cypress tree.
cypress tree. You know,
You're
or
a
like
cypress
one of
tree.
the ones where like they have like the Spanish moss on it. I feel like those are pretty cool
Yeah,
too.
weeping willows. I don't know what they're called.
Yeah,
Brian
they're like
said the same thing. You darn Southerners are so darn predictable. All right, let's
no.
talk about.
I just put palmetto cheese on everything too.
Oh, you do pimento. Oh, that I could go for some pimento. Pimento doesn't sound good on its own, but pimento cheese,
Oh,
sign me up.
so when you go to Knoxville, when Bryant goes, because I call him out and he's going, he has to go to a game in Knoxville. There's a restaurant called Tupelo Honey, and they have this they have this thing, and they take like two eggs, and they make the eggs how you want them, and they throw a waffle on it, and then they throw a chicken fried steak on it, and they coat the whole thing in gravy, and it was like one of the best things I've ever eaten.
Oh, Ohio State might actually be in the Knoxville region to start off the game, to start off the tournament. That's where bracketology is putting them. Um, that sounds good. I'm not planning on driving to any of them to cover it, but the more you talk about Knoxville, I might be stupid not to go.
It's like crazy. If you need restaurant recommendations, I got you. Like I'll be like, go here, go here, go here. Like I'd like, and you have to go check out Women's Basketball Hall of Fame because I don't
Yeah,
know if you know Naismith up in Springfield, but Women's Basketball Hall of Fame is a little bit smaller, but it's more like it's I liked it, and they take like they do the thing where they do where like they take the Final Four teams and then they like you get like a display on each of them, which is pretty cool. And then they have a thing where you can like go through and then you like pick your coach and you get to like you like sit on this locker room bench and like whoever hypes you up like Andy Landers or Pat Summit and they're like, oh, let's go out there and win. And you get to get all hyped up. And like it's a fun and they have like a basketball court where you can like shoot on all like the history of basketball net. So they have like the basket one and they have like
huh?
and it's crazy. And then like that the intro video when you go in the hall just like gets you all fired up. You're like, oh, I love women's sports. Like
That's great, man. That's legit. Okay, if I go down there, I'll definitely have to check that out. I love it. Let's finish up with a couple more questions. One is from Alexander Dumas. You know this guy, the Washington Spirit, CC Kaiser restraining order guy. We're going to talk a couple things. First one he had was regards to New Jersey food. He saw about New Jersey cuisine. New Jersey doesn't have cuisine. Like New Jersey just borrows cuisine from New York.
it's like the thing I think when I think of New Jersey food is diner food.
A diner, like you put gravy on fries, but Canadians have already done that, and they
Yeah.
put cheese curds and make it even better.
Well,
But they have like circus fries, That's one of them, right?
so their big thing is like pork roll and Taylor ham. They like fry
That's
those
what
up.
his question was. Why? That's another follow-up question. If Taylor ham pork roll was so good, then why is it more widely known or liked?
I
That's what
feel like
he
it's just
asked.
a Jersey thing though. Like I feel like it's just a Jersey thing. Like I didn't know what it was until I started going to Gotham games. Like, well, I knew what pork roll was, but I didn't know there was like a rivalry. Like, because pork roll is a big, like South South Jersey thing, and then Taylor Ham's like North Jersey. So I always, before I became like a supporter of Sky Blue Gotham, I had never like known there was a rivalry. And so like if you stop in like South Jersey, because I drive everywhere,
Yeah.
so like if I drove anywhere, like I was like I'm gonna stop in South Jersey and get like a pork roll and egg and cheese, So I didn't even. I was like, it was just a normal thing. And then I go to Wawa all the time, and that's one of Wawa's things. So like go get like pork roll, egg, and cheese, and then get on the road. So I didn't know
Yeah.
it was right when I got there. So I feel like that's why it's just like a Jersey thing. Like you have to live there or you have to have visited there a lot to know like, okay, there's this big processed meat rivalry. So
We shouldn't be giving Alex this much real estate of our podcast, by the
I
way,
know
because he's just a troll. That's all he is.
he refuses to watch women's college basketball. So and I hate it.
You're in Louisville. You have Louisville and Kentucky
Well,
in the state.
he's in worse than he's in South Carolina. He lives in Columbia.
Oh, he lives in South Carolina?
Lives in Columbia and has never seen like the women's basketball team down there. And I like texted him. I'm like, dude, like I texted him when they had college game day. I was like, bro, you need to get over to this game. Like, you're not gonna like want to miss this. And then, yeah, he's even worse. He lives in Columbia where they have a statue of a little known player called Asa Wilson. Like,
He's just that, you know what? That's more for us. If he doesn't
yeah,
watch it, that's more for us.
he's missing out. I told him I was like, if you had never watched an NWSL game, would you have gone? He's like, no. I was like, well, then don't do the same thing for women's basketball. So
When you suck, you suck.
yeah.
Let's another question from him. Are there more doors or wheels in the world?
Ooh,
I'm gonna say wheels.
yeah, I'm gonna say wheels because you have to think about all the like office carts
Oh,
and
but hold on. But think about the doors and like you have two cars in a driveway with about 8 tires, right? Um,
right
inside the house,
and
though,
the steering wheel
every
is actually
bedroom, every bathroom, basement. I'm talking about wheels. Yeah, wheels. Okay.
wheel. I feel like it's
I'll say
wheels.
wheels. I'll say wheels. I'll say wheels too. Okay, last question. Also talking about, I guess, wheels in a way. The circle, I should say. Why are manholes circular? That's a question from Homer Olson. Last question of the night. And since I didn't give this award out to anybody yet, this also gets the Frank Barber Memorial Award
Is
for
that
best question of the night, brought to you by Kim Mulkey.
I thought it was the Alabama sucks award, but we'll go with that too.
Oh, Frank, he's coming for you.
Hey, hey, go Tigers! So
Oh man, dang, Gina. Um, why are manhole covers round? That's
I
a
don't
good
know.
question.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I never really thought about it.
They're round because the sewer departments, they don't cut corners.
I feel like oh,
Oh wait, no, that would be if they were square. Never mind, because they cut corners.
they
Oh,
cut
got him.
corners. I don't know. I don't know why that is. I feel like that's an interesting thing that I now would like to Google. So you
Go and Google it, Robbie, while I close the show up.
Google it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight on Bryant and me, or maybe Robbie and me. I don't know. Bryant and me, we're on social media. We're at Bryant and me. We're on social media on Twitter and on Instagram. Isn't that swell? Brian Caves is on Instagram also. He's at Pickle Chip. Replace those eyes with the number one. And I'm on social media on Twitter and Instagram at number one Thomas Costello. It's the number one. You don't type out NUMBER1. It's one Thomas Costello. I post pretty much just articles. If I'm at a press conference, I'll write some press conferencey things. But I write about Ohio State women's basketball on Land Grant Holy Land, and I cover the Crew on Massive Report. Good news, I'm also going to be covering the WPSL again this year from April through May, June, July. April through July, I'm going to be covering the WPSL again. And also there's even something in the hopper where I might be writing for the Columbus Sports Commission. So I'm just out there doing the do. Give us a follow. Bryant's out there. He's got a friend in town from Ireland right now. He's asking he's asking his friend from Ireland, why does Aaron go bra? And why does anybody care that Aaron goes bra? So that's our show. You can follow us on all those things I said, but give us a subscription go on to your favorite podcast thing and add us to your list. I don't know what they're called across the different podcast links, and I don't care. Give us a rate and review if you can on your podcast app of choice. Also, write something about us. You can write something really mean. Just give us 5 stars. That's all that we ask of you. If you write something really mean about our show and it's really funny, we'll share it on the show. Don't worry about hurting our feelings. We don't have many left. Robbie, why don't you go ahead and promote yourself here, sir? Give us your social media handles. Um, Write any poetry you have about Kim Mulkey. Now's the time to share it. Promote yourself before we call it a night.
So you can go follow me on Instagram at robbie.rogers11, or you can go follow me all over on Twitter at ROBROG1115.
Rob Raj, yeah, man. Robbie, meeting you on the internet and now talking to you and meeting you in person, it's a great treat, and I hope that you can be on the show a lot more throughout the season here. Maybe even talking more about March Madness, if seeing how far LSU goes, how far Ohio State goes, and maybe we can recap after the tournament's done.
Sounds great. So she would like to be like, go Tigers, get it done in the tournament.
Maybe we can get Kim on here. You and Kim can talk long form, and I'll just sit back and listen.
She's such an interesting person, and I was just like, last week was like a dream, but then I was like, this is all reality. And then I keep like going back and being like they did a segment on me on the Kim Mulkey show, and I was like, there's no way like this is real. And I had to like listen to it like 3 times. I was like, oh, that actually happened. So.
And now you went from a dream to a nightmare. Thank you for being on the show tonight, Robbie. And I appreciate you being the person that you are. And you're just a great person. And you should follow Robbie and watch some basketball. Watch women's March Madness coming up, starting here in about a week and a half. So, Robbie, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye to everybody listening. Adios.